Summon Sign is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 63 of Summon Sign, Last Stand Media's weekly in-depth game discussion podcast. I'm your host, as always, Brad Ellis, and joining me I have two lovely gentlemen. First, Mr. Lockmort, how are you, sir?
Wow, that's very energetic. Hi, I'm awesome. We have you guys had daylight savings this week.
Yes,
so our time zones are a little bit more fucked up than they usually are. So right now, I think you're 5 hours behind me, so it's 2 p.m. where you are right now, I think, right?
Well, where I am, it's 11 where he is.
11 a.m. for me.
Yeah. So it's even more fucked up. Okay, well, so it's a little bit of an adjustment. That's always fun, because we have our daylight savings in 2 weeks. So that's when things get back to normal.
Of course you do. Yes.
Well, who had it first?
Well, I don't know. It's probably a European invention, I would assume, for farming.
So yeah, probably, yeah.
I wonder why then we went off base. I don't know. Whatever. Someone can write in a long comment.
I'm pretty sure Arizona doesn't do daylight savings at all. And so there are times where they're 2 hours off, right? From everyone around them, which is weird. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I wish we'd just come together as a country, just be like, this is what we're doing.
This is the thing, dude, is that I thought this has been discussed a lot lately. I don't know if you guys
No, yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And it has been discussed. Actually, I think the Senate even passed a bill like a few years ago and it just never cleared the House. But it's like what the problem is, and it's true, is that no one knows what like the solution is, because half of the people want the daylight earlier and half the people want the daylight later. And really the only way to please everyone is to just keep it the way it is, which is why I think it is. I don't really have a preference of where you put the daylight. I just think we should stop moving the clock. So like whatever the consensus is, I'm down. It should, and it makes a little more sense to put the daylight later. I think the only people that want the daylight earlier, and it's a lot of people, are those that bring kids to school and people that travel in the morning and shit like that. Because it'll be dark at 7 or 8 in the morning. But too bad.
Yeah, fuck them kids. Get up. You're going to school.
It'll get them used to the nuclear winter that's coming when the sun will be scarce anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. Arizona going rogue. Pretty wild, but good. And of course, also joining us, our Dr. Wiley, the Dr. Wiley of LSM, Colin Moriarty. How are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you. I just got back from I've been walking a lot lately, because it's like the brief time when it's not cold, but it's not fucking horrifyingly hot yet. So I've been walking 3 or 6 miles every day, because 4 laps from my house is 6 miles from like this route that I take exactly, which is so weird. I love, as you guys know, I love plants and trees and shit like that. And it's really fun walking through the neighborhoods as I'm walking through, and then just like slowly every day, the plants, the trees, the bulbs, everything's like coming to a little bit more. And it's really quite naturalistic and interesting to watch it. I was looking at a weeping tree and it's like got little dots of green on it now. And I'm like, those weren't there yesterday.
Oh,
yeah. And so I'm feeling good, feeling energetic. Not really. I'm feeling neither of those things, but I'm here now. You brought up Dr. Wiley. Are you still playing Mega Man? Or are you done?
No, I'm going to go back to it, but I'm not done. I finished 4.
Finished 4. Okay.
Yeah.
You're like the guy with the axe, but right before the diamonds.
I know.
You know.
Well,
5 and 6 are fucking sick.
Yeah, but 3's great. 2's great already.
Yeah. 3's better than all of them, but yeah. I'm only kidding. I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
You do whatever.
I'll get there. I'm just playing a million things right now, but I will get back to Mega Man someday.
Well, it's good to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for being here.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we end the show, everybody, please check us out on patreon.com/laststandmedia. If you'd like to support us, you get early access to this show, as well as all of our other shows, podcasts, Sacred Symbols, our PlayStation podcast, where Colin hosts, Defining Duke, our Xbox podcast, where Maddie is the host with Cog, and Punching Up, our Nintendo podcast that I also host. So check that out. Also, you can get some merch at laststandmedia.store if you want to get some stuff. We got stickers. We got the Smug Maddie Xbox, one of my favorites. So
good, man.
Got some stuff over there.
We still have some of those. By the way, can you send me the document?
Sure. I can post it for you guys right here.
There
you guys go.
Thanks. I don't usually need one of these, but only with shows that have orders like Sacred, which you do. So then it's like, well, this is useful in that case, so I know where I am.
Absolutely. Also, leave us a nice leave us a rating of a good rating, I should say, on your podcast service of choice, YouTube, thumbs up, all that good stuff. We want to grow. We are in the top 40 with pretty much all of our shows, as far as I'm aware, the gaming ones at least. So
yeah, we were like, what did I wrote in the Discord, like 12, 18, 32, 33 or something like that. 4 of our shows, which is pretty incredible. You know, there's a lot of gaming tripe out there. And so it's good to be able to kind of bubble to the top, and we appreciate that. So yeah, your support on podcast services is much obliged.
Yeah. Thank you guys. We greatly appreciate it. Love it.
By the way, most of the shows that are ahead of us are shows that publish multiple times a week. So
damn.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Like Kind of Funny Games Daily publishes 5 times a week, and it's number 1. We publish once a week. We're 12.
Yeah.
So I do think we're in pretty good shape, comparable to how often we publish.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for listening and watching. We appreciate it.
No, I didn't mean to as a Belgian, I didn't mean to offend you.
That was a long time ago. We can speak German here now. It's okay. It's fine.
Okay, good. Okay,
Just as long as you don't say it in Russian, we should be fine.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't even think I know it yet. I think that's the only Russian word I know. My stepdad is, I've said before, he's a FBI analyst, or he was, because he took the buyout from the government. He was a submariner during the Cold War and a linguist during the Cold War, so he speaks fluent Russian.
Cool.
And other languages too. I think he speaks Korean or something like that. But I'll have to ask him for a few words to throw around.
Nice.
But I really don't I don't even, you know how you know like a few words out of a different language, like Dankeschön or whatever, Zeitgeist, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know a fucking single thing. Babushka.
The little
babushka, that's grandma, right? Isn't that grandma? A babushka?
I think so. Yeah. Aren't those little dolls? No, that's something else. No, you're right. That's grandma.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway.
What did
you can tell me when you're speaking Russian.
What did they call John Wick in what do they call him in Russian? What was it again?
Baba Yaga.
Baba Yaga.
Oh, Baba, yeah, that's like some sort of
that's like some the boogeyman, right?
Yeah.
Now, are you really? You're okay. You feel okay, right, with everything that's going on right now, or not so much? Because you had said Locke, because you said you were going to get drafted.
Oh no, dude! No, it's so funny to see everyone panicking. No, I think it's completely fine. Like, of course, the media is like amping it up everywhere, and like we need our own military now because the Russians are coming. I think we're pretty much okay. At least I'm not scared. Well, if they're here, like, come and get me. I guess there's not much I can do. Like, I can barely get up, so they can come shoot me in my apartment. I guess.
Jesus Christ! Yeah, I can imagine it's pretty tense over there. I'm sorry about that.
It is. But I mean, it's also a lot of it is also fabricated. I think. Like, of course, what's going on in the Ukraine is, of course, horrible. I hope that's got cleared soon. But here, it's pretty much fine where I live. So
yeah, of course.
No worries.
Of course.
Yeah.
Good. Our very best to our European friends.
That's right.
Thank you.
All right. This is a little feel-good thing. This is from Diddy Dong's Quest that wrote in. Hey, Brad and Colin. Sorry for the long post, but I would like to thank you for the Mega Man conversation you guys had on the last episode you were together. I always felt like the NES games were too hard for me. I felt intimidated and like I always needed save states, but your passion and encouragement inspired me to try them again without save states. I picked up a copy of the Anniversary Collection. Don't worry, Colin. The PS2 version has the correct button mapping.
Yeah, oh my God. Don't even get me started. The GameCube version is a fucking disaster.
And I've been playing it on my CRT. I have now beaten every game in the classic series. I now feel comfortable saying Mega Man is one of my favorite series. Thanks again, guys. P.S. My rankings for the best to worst goes 3, 2, 4, 9, 6, 10, 5, 8, 11, 7. How do you feel about that ranking?
Well, he's definitely right. The last 3 are definitely right. 8, 11, and 7, I think, are the worst Mega Man games for sure. But they're both great. He doesn't have one. Did he say something about 1?
I don't think 1's there at all.
Yeah, because it would probably 1 would be in that group too, I think. And then so 3, 2 is good. 4, 9, 6. Yeah, because I go like 3, 2, 6, 5, probably 9, 10, something. I don't know, but that's fine in the main. I think that's totally great. I'm glad that we inspired him. The PS2 versions are good. Actually, when I was an intern at IGN many years ago, it was 21 years ago now. That was one of the first previews I ever wrote was for Mega Man, the Mega Man collection on PS2. And what he's referring to is famously with the controls is that the GameCube, for people that don't know, is the GameCube version has inverted controls and you can't do anything about it. And it's so like the B is where the A is and the A is where the B is. And if you know how to play the games, it's not doable. It's like, it's totally not doable. If you're new to it, you will not know the difference probably, but notoriously bad port. Horrible, actually.
Jeez. Awful.
Couldn't believe it at the time. But yeah, and playing it on the CRT, classic. Love that.
Yeah, the way to do it. Man, I need a CRT, but I haven't found a good one. That's the way to go. Lockport, what's your history with Mega Man, if any?
It's such a blind spot for me. I'm always surrounded by people who love Mega Man, like you two guys, and Maddie loves it too. But those are just games I didn't grow up with, so I never played them. I grew up with like CRPGs and adventure games and stuff on PC. So Mega Man is like a huge. It's like Pokemon games. They're like a huge blind spot for me, which is a shame because I when I was editing for Maddie on Retro Rebound, I edited a bunch of Mega Man videos, and they always seemed like super fun. So hopefully one day I can get back to them, or they release some kind of collection or whatever. But they look really fun.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, NES and SNES were just not prevalent machines where you are. No, and so I think a lot of people have had to go back. And if they've had the inclination to do so. So because like a lot of the games Europeans talk about, or even the machines they talk about, I'm like, no one was playing this stuff, and it's not because it's bad or good. It's like it was just not a thing, like Amiga or something. I'm like,
yeah, that's what we have.
Like I didn't know I don't think anyone even knew what that was. You know. No. So it's just about where you are, I think, and the things you're exposed to. There is that awful Mega Man 1 port on PC. That's like notorious.
It's like DOS, right?
Yeah, it's horrifying. It's horrifying. There's also there's like a bespoke Mega Man 3 as well for PC. That's like really fucking crazy too. Fake Mega Man games, basically. Made by a studio called High Res or something like that. I don't remember.
Huh. Yeah, we had those fake knockoff games. Maybe like we didn't have Mario here, but we have like Gianna Sisters.
Yeah, which came back more recently.
Sisters?
Yeah. Gianna Sisters. I gotta look at this. Gianna Sisters. I think Embracer Group owns Gianna Sisters now,
which is really funny. And I think we had. I don't know if it's the same thing, but Commander Keen, is that maybe something like Mega Man?
Yeah, I know what that is.
Commander Keen is isn't that id?
I thought it owned that.
So yeah, possibly yeah.
Like sure. Commander Keen is like a PC series from before. Hold on. Commander Keen wiki. Ooh. Oh my god! I just hit like all the wrong buttons. All right, there we go. Id.
Yeah, and is that comparable to Mega Man or not at all?
Yeah, somewhat. I've seen gameplay. Yeah, I'm looking at. Yeah, I mean it's a side-scrolling action game. It has like a weird isometric pitch on its graphics, which is kind of interesting. Instead of it being like a true side scroller, it looks more like Little Big Planet.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look that good, but yeah, Gianna, I didn't even know that's a great point. I didn't even know what the fuck Gianna Sisters were or was until I think that a Gianna Sisters game came to PS3 or something like that. And at that point I looked it up and I'm like, oh, like what is this? There's so much I don't know about PC centric gaming. It's a total blind spot for me. So,
yeah. I missed a lot of that too.
You know, like people talk about like, oh, I played this, and this, or I watch some of these YouTube channels. Like I love LGR, Lazy Game Reviews.
Oh yeah.
And he's awesome. And he talks about the games he played as a kid and he has all the games. And I'm like, dude, this is like a fucking shadow world. We're the same age. And I'm like, this is another dimension of games that don't exist in my world. And I'm playing all these games that probably don't exist in your world as well.
That's
pretty
so
interesting
cool
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I should quit doing Sacred Symbols and just do an old school PC podcast and just use the rest of my time catching up on all the things I missed. Apple II cast.
Yeah. I didn't have a PC of my own to play games on until I was in high school, like 2003 or 4.
Oh,
when
wow.
WoW came out, I was like, all right.
That's pretty late. That's pretty late to get a PC, but you had a family PC.
Yeah, but it was mostly just for my mom's work. The only thing we ever had on it, I think, was Doom. We had Doom on it, and I put some ROMs on it, which probably fucked it up. But
because isn't it interesting how like in the early 90s, in the 80s, I knew a couple people, like when I was a very little kid, like a couple people had PCs. You weren't really allowed to fuck with them, you know? And then sometime in like the mid 90s, everyone started getting computers.
Yeah.
And then by, I would say 2000, everyone had a computer. It happened like really quickly because it became almost a necessity to communicate with people the way that, AIM and email and browsing the web, AOL keywords and all that kind of stuff. It's fascinating to think about how quickly it happened. So the same thing happened with us, where we had my dad had a computer that he bought because my dad went back to school in the early 90s to get his grad degree. And when he was hurt in the FDNY or whatever. And so he had this computer, and it did have a bunch of things on it that, because my cousin made it for him. And so it had Doom and shit like that, but I wasn't really allowed to mess with it. And this was the computer I told the story about that eventually it broke when I was using it. But I straight up didn't do anything. And my dad, my dad got really mad at me because my dad didn't understand anything. I was in ninth grade when this happened. And my dad got really upset with me and blamed me for breaking it for years. And then when I was in college, his computer broke for no reason. And he apologized to me.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Damn. That's nice.
I was like, see, I told you, sometimes these things just happen. I don't know why it happened. I know I'm using this all of the time, but, and then I got my own computer in my room, and that was revolutionary. And you could see pictures of that on the internet. Me all hunchback like a shrimp, typing game facts.
I was always so jealous of kids that had a computer in their room. That was so cool.
It was awesome, dude. It was
the best. Yeah.
It was revolutionary. So we got our first internet connected computer in 1995 or 96. And then I got that computer. We got another computer. And actually I talked about it with obscure Sony, because who was on Sacred Symbols Plus recently. Cause I was like, I had the first Vio model that was available in the West, the very first one. And I've said it a billion times, but I remember it so well, getting it in Circuit City and how fucking crazy expensive it was. And my mom bought it for the family. And then they got another one, and I got that one in my room. And that was in 1998 or whatever, 1999. And it changed my life. It totally changed my life, to the point where my dad even got me my own phone line, which was I couldn't believe that. That was one of those things where I was crazy. What? Really?
It's awesome.
But he was doing it for me, but for himself, because I was on the phone all the time. But I remember coming home and being I got you your own phone line. Here's what, and then I accidentally ran up an $800 bill by calling and we had to get it reversed by the phone company. My dad almost fucking killed me, dude. Actually, I was visiting my mom in Boston at the time, and so I was doing it all over the phone with him. I was so afraid to go home.
Damn, dude.
That's because for people you had to dial out, so I was accidentally dialing a number out of our service area. It's so fucking crazy to think about all that stuff. But dude, AIM, IRC, ICQ. GameFAQs forums and the other game forums. I lived on those. I lived there. And it was all because I had the computer to myself in my room at a time where a lot of people didn't. And that's why it was so interesting and mysterious and bespoke. And I miss those days. They happened like that. They happened like that. And then it was like this.
Now it's like this. Yeah. Now we're all miserable. Locke, when did you get your own computer? I know you guys had a family one.
Well, I got my own one in 1994, 1995, but we didn't have internet until after 9/11, I want to say. Because when 9/11 happened, my dad was like, okay, now we need internet. The world is exploding. So we need to stay in contact with people on other continents. So that's when we got internet. But until then, I was always playing single player games. And if a game needed a patch, I needed to go to the library where they had internet with my floppy disk and download the patch on the floppy disk and then bring it home and patch the game that way.
Things we went through, man. Crazy.
It's wild. I love it.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. The fucking digital cameras with floppy disks in them. Love that. Zip drives.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah.
I got a zip drive. I actually, Dagan gave me his old zip drive when I was in high school. And I was like, this is amazing. I can put 20 MP3s on it.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'd bring them. I'd bring it to school and put it in the zip drives there so I can listen to music during computer class or whatever.
Dude, that reminds me. My brother had the first iPod, the first ever iPod model.
The one with the buttons.
The first model ever for iPod. I just remember being like, whoa, this is crazy. How many CDs can you fit on here? And now it's nothing.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, that's the model with the actual buttons on it.
Yeah, it was
and then they add the wheel later, I think. The classic click wheel. Remember all the bootleg MP3 players too? I had one of those bootleg ones. It was it literally I think was 64 megs or something like that. And it was probably $49.99 or something. So that would be at 128 kbps, probably, I don't know, 10 songs, maybe 15 songs, something like that. And I'd bring it to hockey practice and just listen to the same shit over and over.
Yeah, man. Archaic.
It's funny.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Oh, Locke, I just want to say I love that story of you fucking up your entire family's computer to install Baldur's Gate, I think it was.
Yeah, that was
deleted everything.
Well, yeah, because Baldur's Gate needed like 800 megabytes of hard drive space, but Windows took up like I think 200 or 300. So I figured I would just delete Windows, and that would solve the problem. But then I didn't realize that the computer wouldn't work anymore. So yeah.
Isn't it funny that the computers let you do that too? Like I think about that too because I fucked my computer up badly by just trying to delete things to make space. And now when you do that, it's like you don't want to do. It's like you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that. Like, but then it's just like delete whatever you want. Then I remember actually when I did that, the computer worked fine until I restarted it, and then it wouldn't restart. And so I deleted something to do with it booting, and I was like, oh, good, thanks for letting me delete that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Back then you could completely fuck up everything. Yeah. Also the amount of viruses, because people didn't have like antivirus back then. Right. So I remember, I think in 2002 or 2001 even, I got this virus somewhere, which basically shut down my computer. I just couldn't boot it up ever again. Just done. Horrible.
Yeah, it was awful. It was interesting though. The Napster era is what really made the virus thing pop off.
Yeah.
You're downloading, Britney Spears Hit Me Baby One More Time, and you're really downloading like a catastrophic Trojan virus.
Yeah. Wild times. All right. Colin, how do you say this? Evotincition? How do you pronounce this?
Evotinction is what I've been saying.
Evotincition? I have no idea how you say this.
Me neither. No one does.
Okay. Talk to me about this game. I've never heard of this.
Yeah, this is a pretty cool game, actually. It's a China Hero game. China Hero, of course, and we've talked about it extensively on Sacred Symbols, because I'm really into what Sony's doing in this regard. Is Sony's investing an enormous amount of money in emerging markets to get games out of those markets and put them on PS5, where they would usually just be on PC or maybe not even on phone. So China Hero Project has, off the top of my head, I think they've delivered 7 games so far, and there are 13 more in development. Lost Soul Aside is the next one that's like a really big one that's coming out of China Hero Project. And that game has been in development for 10 years somehow. And they're doing something similar in India, and they're doing something similar in the Middle East and North Africa, which is cool. MENA, they're calling it MENA Hero. So I don't play many of these games because it's a variety of games. It's like, it could be like a pixel art side scroller, it could be a walking simulator, it could be a multiplayer game. So it's really not a bunch of stuff that the ones that line up most to my taste that I still haven't played, actually, though I bought back in the day, is that game Fist, Forged in Shadow Torch.
I played a little bit of that.
Yeah, which is a Metroidvania. So this game really appealed to me when I kept seeing it. I'm like, what is this game? And I guess the dissonance in how no one seemed to care about it, but how good it looked to me, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. So it's a game by a developer named Spikewave, a Chinese studio, and it's published by Astrolabe, which is an international publisher, but Sony kind of gave it financial backing. So it's on PS5 and PC. And I don't know exactly how the Hero Project works financially, but I imagine it's like the old, what was called the Pub Fund, which we bring up from time to time, which was this idea that Sony would, Guacamelee is a famous game that took the Pub Fund money from Sony, for instance, which is like Sony invests in your game, and basically you pay all the money back, and like by selling the game on PlayStation. And once you reach that threshold, then you can kind of lift the game off the console, put it elsewhere. And so I don't know if it's like a similar thing. I suspect it probably is the evolution of that. Pardon the pun, because we're talking about Evotincition, which I think is a evolution and extinction put together.
Oh. Not a great name.
No, it's
roll off the tongue.
It's a horrible name. So it's a third-person stealth game, and it's surprisingly good-looking. I think it's fairly limited in what it needed to do. It runs really well. So it's a game about rogue AI, but what's really, and so it's actually quite timely, but maybe even also a little rote, because we're like always talking about fucking AI now, and so it's a little boring. But the idea behind it, and I guess this is a little spoilerish, but not really, is the AI, because you learn this kind of early in the game, is that what differentiates this story is that the AI has been spreading without letting itself be known, so that when it's time for it to kind of turn everything on, it happens instantaneously, and it catches people completely fucking on their back foot. It's not like the Cylons in the Humans in Battlestar Galactica, where it's like 40 or 50 years and they're fighting fucking world wars and shit. It's like, no, like one day everyone wakes up and the AI is just in charge, and no one really understands how it happened, which is kind of cool. And you play as this doctor Now, I want to call him Dr. Liu, Liu, but in the voice acting in the game, they're like, Dr. Liu. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that sounds fine, but is it that you would know better than me, right? I mean, you wrote the game and did all that. So, but I want to call him Dr. Liu nonetheless. And he's like a doctor that worked on a bunch of these different programs, and you learn about a bunch of the different programs that are intertwined into this AI model. And so you're at the research facility where all of this went down. That's where it all takes place. So from this perspective, it feels a little bit like Control, actually. Not gameplay wise at all, and not even about supernaturalism, but just like you're in the shadow complex, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Which is cool. So there's that. And then there's a deep Metal Gear feel. Like it's obvious that these guys love Kojima. Like there's no doubt about it.
Right.
It comes off as bootleg Kojima in some ways, but it's not even really heavy handed. I think a lot of it has to do with like just the stylings of the games. The music is very Metal Gear. There are even VR like mission training things in the game. So like, there's a whole series of training missions and you get rankings on them. And it's like, kill this guard and do this and get out or whatever. And so not unlike many Metal Gear things in the past. So I like that connection as well. And I think that the connection is it's like a tip of the cap as opposed to being really over, you can't really, as we saw recently with Death Stranding 2 and the trailer, like you can't do Kojima. Kojima does Kojima, but you can be kind of inspired by shades of Kojima. So there's that. And then what I was saying earlier is that the game doesn't really need to operate at a very high level, so it can look really good and it can run really well because there are no human enemies. In fact, there are almost no humans in the game at all. And when you see another human in the game, you're like, ooh, maybe that's why we didn't want humans in this game. It's all robots. Except for you. You're in this cool suit that's very Death Stranding-like, actually. And the robots you fight are like orbs, like floating orbs and these weird defensive turrets, and there's just a variety of like palette swapped enemies. So it's nothing too complicated. And you're basically going through this facility, and sometimes there's a bunch of collectibles. So you can find like audio logs and documents and emails. You can hack into computers to make things easier for you. You can like spy ahead using cameras to look ahead of you and like see things. You can disable certain defenses if you have like the certain codes that you need. But then you run into a series of basically linear stages where linearly presented stages where it's like, here's a warehouse, here are 10 enemies, there's a computer terminal, get to the computer terminal. And you can do it however you really want. So you can carefully hack the enemies, you can disable them in other ways or just avoid them completely. And it's pretty fun. And there's a really cool mechanic where some of the robots many of them have barcodes on them, and you have like a barcode scanner basically. And if you can like sneak up behind them and scan the barcode, you can disable them immediately. So like they collapse. It's pretty cool. There's like a lot of really cool ideas here. It's the reason I was attracted to it recently was because I never bought it when it came out. It came out late last year, like September. And it's $40, I think, or maybe 30. It was $17 on sale. I just was like clicking through the sale like on PS5, and I was like, oh, all right. And I bought it and played it. And I thought at that price, it was really appropriate. I think even at $30, people would find quite a bit to like. It took me about 10 hours to beat. There's a new game plus, because there are different choices in the game, by the way, that changed some things. So you should play it twice, I guess. I haven't played it twice, but I did play it once. And there's all the VR training style things too. Collectibles. There's like hundreds of collectibles to find. There's a shit ton of them. So I like it. I like it a lot. I recommend it to a certain kind of person, but I don't know if you're looking for something that's truly action oriented. Like if you get seen, you can get seen by the robots and kind of survive. You can fight them and maybe even escape from them and like kind of reset things. But once you're seen, the game kind of degrades. So it's one of those games where you really don't want to be seen.
Yeah. And
you want to do it, not unlike Splinter Cell or something where you want to do it really cleanly. And I reset to previous checkpoints many times to like, I'm like, even things I got through, I'm like, I could do that better. Like that was kind of annoying. I didn't like that. I see the way through this now. Yeah. That's much more elegant. So yeah, this is a cool game.
Yeah. What would you say? So like, it is kind of like level based. I suppose you're saying like, or stage based, almost like you're here, then you go to the end to do something. There's always like a point A to point B kind of thing, right?
Yeah. There's like yes, I would say most like, it's not even like BioShock really, but it's like you can go back to previous areas, but and sometimes you backtrack through them to get to another place. Maybe like the Ishimura and Dead Space, but it's presented very linearly. Like there's no puzzle as to where you're supposed to really go or be at any given time. And you are trying to just get through things to get to a place, and then often backtracking back through the place to get to another place, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's maybe not even really on like Metal Gear Solid or something.
I was gonna say when I looked at some of it, and it really reminded me of like the VR missions in Metal Gear.
Yeah.
I don't know why, that's what I thought of immediately when I was looking at it all. So that is kind of interesting. Is there like a good progression of introducing new ideas throughout it?
Yeah, actually, I mean there are different ways to hack. So the game is frustrating a little bit in that it kind of interrupts you a lot because it has to teach you many things. But at some point you get into different mechanics where you can kind of go about things differently. So you can and you have like a certain amount of currency basically, or like ammo for these different things. So you can throw like a noise box that like is singing a song to like make the robots all turn around. You can you can like scan the robots, and if they're sometimes they're networked, so you can like give them a virus that will, so like a vision virus that will make them blind, and then it will spread to all the ones they're connected to. There are and hearing too, like when you scan them, they'll have like a little eyeball and a little ear icon and all these things to let you know like what their senses are basically, and you can like disable them, so like make them completely stupid if you want, and then come in and basically just destroy them.
Okay.
So yeah, I think though it's comparable to many of these great things, like I said, like Metal Gear and other things, it's not on that level, but it's really good. Like I thought it was surprisingly good. And it reminds me of what I've been saying for the last couple of years, really, which is that for the first time, games that would have gotten more attention, maybe just a little more attention, a little more respect, are truly falling through the cracks, like to never be seen again. And I'm on Steam right now. Like this game has 153 reviews.
That's nothing. Wow.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, like,
wow,
no one respects this game, and maybe I'm totally off base or whatever, but I'm surprised by people's lack of interest in this game just because of it's pretty good. I don't think Sony would invest so much time and money and energy. It's not a lot of money really, but a lot of energy into bringing something like this to market if it wasn't going to be like passable, but it's being completely ignored. So I
think it's just a lot of people don't even know it exists kind of thing. Like me, I didn't even think, I was like, what? I don't even know what this is kind of thing. Then I saw it. It was like, oh, the China Hero Project linked to that. It's like, I had no idea this was out. I didn't hear anyone talk about this. I think it's just a lack of awareness mostly, not necessarily lack of quality.
So I totally agree. But that's the way it goes. I mean, there's only so much oxygen. And why would people be interested? Is this more interesting than many games that are coming out? If you don't play games every fucking day of your life like we do, then probably not. I mean, like this isn't going to be a game you're going to want to play over X, Y, or Z, definitely. But for people that are churning through games like we are, this is definitely worth a visit. Cool. And I've beaten, I think, 11, 12 games this year or something like that. And this was one of the better ones for sure.
Oh, nice. Sounds like a great game for people that kind of miss the days of the AA 9-10 hour PS2 games.
Yeah, I mean,
like right up that alley.
Totally, that's a great way to put it. And dude, there are some really beautiful visuals in the game. There's this one hallway where they have these like red flashing lights, these beautiful shadows and light. I'm like, this looks incredible. There are parts where I was like, this looks incredible. I can't believe how good this looks. Again, it is very sterile. It's a very sterile tech facility. So it's not like it doesn't have these crazy textures. There's not people walking around. And it's not, I don't want to say it's not hard to execute on this. It is, but it's like, it's easy to make things look like really well, really good and run really good, which is important in a game like this if you don't have a lot going on. But that's the minimalism is part of the fun in the game. And again, I really dig the character too. You don't really know the character very well, but just the whole suit he's wearing, the astronaut style suit is really cool. He looks like a G.I. Joe. I mean,
it kind of does. It's $30 right now on PSN, and there's a demo though. So if you're curious about it, you can check that out.
How did you find this? What compelled you to look for this?
I think I just am a student of PlayStation in some way for Sacred Symbols, where I'm always going into like their everything they write, on PlayStation blog, all of their press releases, things like that. And Evotincition has like come up and been shown before. And as a China Hero project, like we kind of tick them off as they come out. So I think that's how I heard about it. Plus, I scroll through the PS5 store constantly just to see what's being published. And I think I ran into it that way too. But otherwise I would have certainly never heard of it. I don't think even big websites even reviewed it or anything. So it just needed that one it's not going to be me because I'm not nearly big enough, but like one person that would play it or show it to a wider audience on a Let's Play or something that would have probably exposed it to more people.
How do you feel about the China Hero Project right now? Have you been satisfied with what they've been putting out?
Yeah. I mean, as I was saying earlier, I think like Lost Soul Aside is going to be a nice test bed for how that goes. But I think
I played that game like 6 years ago, and it was fun when I played it. It's like a Devil May Cry game, or it was.
It looks, I'm looking. I think it comes out in May.
Yeah, it's May. It's the same day
May
as
30th,
Elden
maybe
Ring, Night Rain, which is unfortunate for me. But
so, like I said, Fortune Shadow Torch was probably the most interesting game. They did that game Anno Mutationum, which is like that cyberpunk game. There was like a weird walking simulator. I think Immortal Legacy. That horror game In Nightmare, and Evotincition is one of them. And then there's a few that are coming up, like that game. There's a third-person online shooter, Convaleria, that looks pretty interesting. That's coming out of there. The game AI Limit, which is an action RPG, and more. So we'll see. But no, I think it's good. I think these are. I really believe that Sony, and I've said this on Sacred Symbols ad nauseum, but they deserve credit for. They get a lot of things wrong, and they fucked some things up recently for sure, like big things. But they understand more than anyone, like any publisher and certainly any platform holder, like the international nature of games and how you want to be in these markets first, and you want to be in them heavy. Yeah, and showing the love to local developers and studios in those places from PlayStation and giving them money and lubricating the wheels of commerce for them and getting them involved in console gaming and internationalizing their games is going to pay dividends down the road in these places where they're selling lots of PlayStations or are going to sell lots of PlayStations. Apparently every PlayStation that goes to China is sold very quickly. They can't keep them in stock there. Now they're really trying to break India open and Africa. And it's like, good. Like this is the Middle East, of course. So this is good. I think this is a good use. This is like what you would call in politics, like soft power. You know, like Sony's like planting the seeds, the Belt and Road Initiative style shit. Right. And then it's like, oh yeah, you need more, like, oh, you remember us, right? Like we're your friends. And I think that's going to work well because, dude, I'm telling you, there are probably so many great games just, you know, either in the ether or in development now in these various places that would otherwise not see the light of day because it's hard to get a Western audience to pay attention to some of this stuff. Yeah, and absolutely. And if Black Myth is any indication, which sold maybe 15 to 20 million of its units in China, things are changing and it makes a market for our shit too. And that's really important too. Yeah. So absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm curious about this game, Colin. I would like to check it out someday. Yeah. I'll put like a note on that to take a peek at that game. It sounds interesting. All right. This is from Guy Kotaku. I don't know what the hell this writing's about, but hi, Brad. I see Colin is joining in digging deeper into Evotincition after introducing the China Hero Project game in the latest Sacred Symbols episode. Chris and Dustin were obviously too coward to do it, so I'm counting on you to hit my man Colin with the voice. I'm just going to take a guess on this. Robots. Dr. Wywee. Thank you. Is that like a Mega Man 8 reference, Colin? Yeah, I don't know. I don't... Is that for Mega Man 8? I don't even know. Just the Dr. Wywee. That's all I could think about. I mean, yeah, that's definitely Mega Man 8. That's them going into the booth and getting one take on everything. Oh, yeah. Japanese people speaking English. I have no idea what you're talking about. Thank you. Yeah, I don't either, but there you go. Gave it a shot. All right. Cool. All right, guys. What I've been playing a little bit of is Split Fiction. So I played this about a week ago with Gene. Me and him played about like 2.5 hours of the game. So I haven't finished the whole game yet, but that's what I've seen so far. But I got to say, it's very good. I was very impressed with what I played overall. Me and Gene had a hell of a time freaking out about stuff. Shit. This game has a really good pace in the sense that I think it's nonstop and keeps you moving a lot of times in like the right way, but it gives you like little moments to breathe also, which is really important. Just to like dick around. Like there's like a pool and you can go off diving boards and like sit on little floaties and just chill out for a second and do like, there was a hopscotch thing we were doing. That was fun. So I really appreciated about that game or about the game. But so the game is about these two girls, Mio and Zoe, who are, I'm going to tell you the story set up the game. It's literally at the start of the game. So here it is. They get
they are both writers, and they kind of have this idea thing that they go to this like Abstergo, or that's the Assassin's Creed place, right? Abstergo?
It is,
Is that what I'm thinking of? Yeah, okay. It looks like Abstergo, and there's like a big boss guy there, and he looks like Andrew House almost. That's who I thought of immediately. But they put you like these guys into these pods, and the corporation wants to steal their ideas, like their writing ideas. It reminded me of almost The Evil Within, to also Colin, like with STEM and stuff like that, like putting them into these pods and going to their own world. So these girls get put in these pods, and through circumstances they get mixed together when they're not supposed to be. So of course they're both very opposite personalities, ice and fire, essentially, how they do things, and they have both different takes on writing. Like one, Zoe, she's super into like sci-fi, and the other one's into fantasy and stuff like that. So you have these clashy natures like that, and they of course start out fighting each other, but I assume as you go throughout the game they'll become closer friends and find some common ground, because that's how things usually go. And they're both not annoying. I wouldn't say no. Well, Dustin thinks they're annoying. I don't think they're super annoying, but I understand they're just kind of at odds with each other.
A couple of women just yapping at you.
They don't nap. They don't yap that much. But
I'm only kidding.
I know you are. But I thought they were likable enough. But I understand they're not supposed to be super likable at that point in time. But anyways, I guess what I'm saying is I was interested enough in these characters to see kind of where they'd go. Like, I do want to continue playing it sometime. Hopefully me and Gene can find time to play it. But man, this game is crazy with the ideas it throws at you. It's always throwing something new. And what's really good about the game is it feels very good to play. The controls are super tight, super precise. Like, there's lots of platform in the game, like running, jumping, climbing stuff. And it all felt really good. And it's cool because when you're playing the game, obviously the screen is split, kind of like It Takes Two and stuff like that. I think A Way Out was also like that. It's been a while since I've played it, but you have these moments where it's like split, so you can see what your partner's doing, and you guys usually have different abilities. So for instance, one of the earlier worlds you go to is like a cyberpunk world, essentially. And the character I was playing as Mia, she had a katana. And the one Gene was playing as, she had like a gravity whip almost. So he could be able to whip stuff and like pull it towards me. And so I could do something and like I would cut something down for him. So a lot of the game is having you have different abilities, but then you use your abilities together to progress through the game. That's like a lot of the game is, but it's crazy. It's like, for instance, then they're starting to introduce like gravity things. And so my character's like walking on the ceiling while Gene's walking on the floor. And we're both kind of like on the same screen together, because it'll go together. Like, it's split down the middle, but at times it'll come together. And it almost like made me sick. Like, me and Gene were like, oh, it's making us sick just seeing like one of us go upside down and moving at the same time. There's also a lot of boss fights, and they're pretty damn good. Like, it feels like rarely do you repeat the same thing in this game ever. It's always introducing like some new crazy idea, some new crazy gameplay mechanic. Like, for instance, one time we're both pigs. We got turned into pigs, and one could stretch really high up, like Balan Wonderworld or something like that, to reach stuff. And the other one could fart and kind of fly with it and shoot rainbows out. It's like, the wild ideas. And if you've seen the trailers of the hot dog part, which I don't really want to ruin for you, but there's hot dogs involved, and I think Micah's going to like that if she ever sees it, Colin.
She will indeed like that.
Yeah, it's a really great game. I definitely want to play more of it. Like I said, it's always throwing new ideas under there, and I don't want to spoil them all for you guys, but it's crazy how much variety is in this game and how well it's executed. Like, I see the reviews for this game, I'm like, yeah, I totally get it.
Do they treat one or the other as like more the protagonist or antagonist, or are they very balanced in there?
One's like a little more grumpy, but not like, so it's more like 60-40%, a little more grumpy. Like, they have different personalities, you can tell, but it's not like this one's clearly the good guy, this one's clearly the bad guy kind of thing like that. Because they're not. They're just these two girls that have different perspectives and taste in things, essentially getting to work together. But yeah, it's super great. You do need someone to play with it. I know that's a problem for a lot of people, but if you can find someone, I highly recommend playing it. You only need one copy to play it with a friend too, which is really nice.
It's cool, yeah.
So I love that. And it's already sold very well, like already over 1 million. So I'm very happy to see it. Like, I know a lot of people like to take It Takes Two. This is kind of the next step in quality. It's excellent. So I highly recommend it. I don't know how it pans out at the end. because story is always an important thing in his games. But I've been impressed with it, what I've played of it, and I want to play more. Lockmore, do you have any interest in trying it?
Yeah, absolutely. I also wanted to try their previous game, It Takes Two, which won Game of the Year.
It's great, it was great.
But like you said, you need someone to play with. Now, I can play this with anyone, I guess. But it's just it's the commitment that
yeah. Maybe we should play it, Locke.
Yeah, sure. I'll play it with you.
Maybe you can play it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Sounds like fun. I'll definitely. The way you talked about it right now, I was already convinced. But it sounds so much fun. It sounds like something really unique.
Yeah.
I think I played Brothers and I played A Way Out, and both of those I thought were great too. So yeah.
Yeah, I haven't played Brothers, but I've played A Way Out, and this is better than A Way Out. It's like It Takes Two level. Like I could see this easily being a nomination at the Game Awards or something like that.
Yeah, probably.
It's very good, and it's kind of when I hopped into this game, I was like, it's going to be like more of It Takes Two. I'm like, whatever, what he can really do. But I was just like, man, that guy Joseph Harris and his team, they know how to make video games and know how to make them fun. So
that's really cool.
It's good stuff.
Do you know how long it is? Is it like a 12-hour game?
I have no idea. I assume it's going to be like that long.
Yeah, sure.
I can find out for you.
Yeah, I assume it'll be like that long, but it moves, man. It's a great pace in that game. Really fun, really creative.
What I've seen of it, tell me if this is correct or not, but what I've seen of it reminds me of like Guardians of the Galaxy, like the video game, like the same vibe, or is that completely wrong?
Well, I think it's like, I don't know what you mean by the vibe, like the humor in it, like the tone?
Like the humor, like the tone, like the way people,
kind of.
The colorful environments, the way they talk to each other.
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Yeah, it's not like quippy or anything. Like they say some dumb stuff in the game, like because they're just goofing off and having fun. But it makes sense. Somehow it makes sense in this game and it works.
Cool.
12 to 14 hours is what it says on how long to beat.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's pretty long.
Yeah.
I've always wondered with these games, I played A Way Out. I didn't beat it. And I haven't played the other two, but I wonder how hard it would be. And it'd probably be quite difficult, I guess, to do it convincingly or like in an intriguing way to make the second player computerized, AI controlled, no matter who you wanted to play.
Maybe.
Obviously not worth the squeeze. Also kind of gives you, pardon the pun, a way out of playing the game as intended, which might not be the best way to experience it. And so you don't want to give people an excuse to kind of dumb the game down. I saw a clip that I really thought was very funny on Twitter. I clicked in on it and it was like something was happening. The girls were like going through some adventure or whatever, but like they needed to use a cell phone. And so like,
my God.
And she was like hitting the, but it was like,
that was
select
Gene
all the road
doing
cones.
It.
Oh yeah. And I'm like, dude, this is
flipping out.
Dude, this is so funny. Like,
yeah, there's shit like that.
Very fun. This is very funny. And
that's cool.
I thought that was really, really clever.
Yeah. Like, for instance, that scene is like one person, which was me in this case, was driving like a motorcycle through the city and like an escape sequence and all that stuff, I think. And Gene was like trying to open like a bunch of stuff on his phone and struggling to do it right. And he was flipping out. It was really fun. So there's a lot of clever stuff like that in the game. Colin, do you have any intention to play it?
No, definitely not. But it's not for me. I'm glad that these kind of games exist for people and they obviously sell extraordinarily well. As I said on a recent episode of something else, I don't remember what it was at this point, but I did hear that he was saying that he's not opposed to doing a single player game.
Right. Yeah.
And I would be interested to see that. But at the same time, do you want to seed? You're not seeding anything. I mean, you can always come back. People are always going to be interested in what they do next in this realm because they keep impressing people. And it seems like the nature of how many games they're selling, millions and millions of games, indicates to me that they have a fan base of people that are waiting for their games. And so part of me is like, it behooves you to stay there. But if you care about like your creative freedom, plus they are wildly rich at this point, no doubt. And EA, of course, is doing really well. It's like maybe you want to take a few more risks and do something more single player. And I think Faris had said that it was, he looks at Brothers, the original game, that was a single player game. And he's like, it would, I think, kind of be full circle for them to go and do something like that. But who knows?
Yeah. Let's see here. Ben Fairbanks wrote in, "Hey boys, I have a question for Brad. As he's playing Split Fiction, my wife and I greatly enjoyed It Takes Two together, and we were constantly engaged by the different gameplay ideas it kept pelting at us. My question is, how's the story? We love the writing in It Takes Two, and the infamous elephant scene still haunts us to this day. I have faith that Split Fiction will be an endless toy chest of gameplay styles, but will we care about the protagonist as much as we do for Cody and May in It Takes Two? Much love from St. Louis, Missouri. Ben, it's hard for me to say because I have not finished the game. I'm sure the characters will grow throughout the game more, but I did like the characters right away, and I wanted to see where they would go on their journey. So that's all I could say for that. But yeah, highly recommend that game. Give it a shot if you get a chance.
Yeah.
All right, Lockmort, Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
Yes, sir.
Why'd you revisit this? What's going on?
What's going on? Well, in 2 weeks, there's a new Assassin's Creed.
What happened?
What happened, Locke? Are you in a downward spiral depression? What's going on?
Maybe. In 2 weeks, Assassin's Creed Shadows releases. And Assassin's Creed Shadows, they're promoting it like it's the first Assassin's Creed game where you play as two protagonists. But that's not true, because I remember a decade ago, we had Assassin's Creed Syndicate, where you also played as two protagonists.
Yes.
Now I kind of love Assassin's Creed. I've played them all. I've liked them all, but I've never finished two of them. And those two are Valhalla, the previous one that came out, I think, in 2018.
Yeah.
2019. And Syndicate, I never finished. And the reason I never finished Syndicate is because it came out in 2015, and it was just like Unity a year before, kind of buggy. When it came out. It also didn't help that in 2015, at the point where it came out, people got really sick of the formula, the typical Assassin's Creed formula. So the reviews kind of panned it. People were kind of sour on it before it even came out. Didn't get a lot of positive attention, really. And as you remember, Assassin's Creed went away for a couple of years after that and then came back with Origins, having like the revamped RPG mechanics in there. So I figured this would be a good time to go back to Syndicate and see if it's worthy of redemption. Because Shadows takes place in Japan, and I don't really care about Japan. But Syndicate takes place in London, and I really care about London. It takes place in 19th century London, so the Second Industrial Revolution, which is a really cool time period, I think, for a game. Not many games are set in that time period.
Definitely.
So you have the city of London filled with factories, crowds, there's horse and carriages everywhere. It kind of reminded me a little bit of that Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes movie. Or those two movies, if you've guys seen those were pretty fun, pretty cool. So that's kind of the vibe the game reminded me of. Now, London is very detailed in this game. It's not modern day London, of course, but it's very deep. There's cobblestones everywhere. There's streets everywhere. The whole game basically takes place inside of the city. In Unity or in other Assassin's Creed games, you could also venture out of the city at certain points. Well, Unity not really, but here, not at all. It's just you're set in London and that's it. There's two protagonists, Evie and Jacob. And just like in Shadows in 2 weeks, Evie takes care of stealth and Jacob takes care of the combat. They have separate skill trees, but not really, because they're mostly the same. There's also no builds, so the skill trees are both steady. You can't really pick and choose. You just have to go along, and in the end, you unlock everything for both. It's a very simple premise, the story of this one. Normally, Assassin's Creed games are filled with twists and interesting characters and betrayals and whatnot, but here, the story is just the Templars are in control of London. Get them out. That's it. The villain is a guy called Crawford Steric, who is a cartoon villain. He has a mustache. At some point, he twirls it, literally. There's not much to it. Of course, you also meet you meet a couple of historical figures like Charles Dickens. You even get to meet Queen Victoria at some point here, which is really cool. If you like history, that's really cool. Now, the modern day aspect in this one is really weird because it doesn't have one. There are modern day segments, but you don't get to play them. They're just cutscenes. Now, as you might remember, I don't know if have you guys played any Assassin's Creed games after 2 or 3?
I've played almost every Assassin's Creed game.
Okay.
3 was the last one I played.
Okay, so in 3, basically the modern day story kind of concludes, right? And then you got the black flag, and they were like, "What the hell? What are we doing here?" So in this one, they just figured, well, we'll just tell it in cutscenes, which is, I guess it kind of works, but it also doesn't because you don't get to play it. So I was just like, what are we doing here? So the overall story and the modern day story are not that interesting and pretty forgettable. But luckily, Assassin's Creed is all about the gameplay, and the gameplay really does shine here. like I said before, you have to take London piece by piece. So it's divided into multiple districts. And in those multiple districts, or boroughs as they call them here, you have strongholds, you have bounties, and you can liberate kids from factories who are basically using them as slave labor. So those are basically the missions.
They yearn for the factories. They yearn for them.
Right.
So if you liberate enough kids, or if you do bounties, or take a lot of strongholds, you can fight the gang leader of that district. And when you fight the gang leader and you win, your own gang, because this game also has your own gang called the Rooks, just like in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, takes over the district, and you can call in your gang to help you out in combat. It's very simple, it's very basic, it's very repetitive, but it works, and it's really fun. It's really fun because the combat is also pretty simple, but again, really fun. You only attack, you parry, and you press X when people are blocking. That's it.
Yep.
It's the whole game is basically in those three combos, but it works. What makes this game special, however, is the black box assassination. So what the black box assassinations are is the game closes off a district or closes off a building. And that is the environment where you have to find someone, a specific target, and have to assassinate them. Kind of works like Hitman. Of course, very restrictive, not at all as open as Hitman or not at all as cool as Hitman. But it is very, very interesting that they put this in this game, because you got like a bunch of pretty cool options to take people out. I remember there was this mission in the morgue where you had to take out a doctor. So you could either pretend you're a corpse and then they wheel you in while they try to operate on you and then stab the doctor, or you can mingle in with the students who are looking at the operation. There's a bunch of options there, which are pretty cool to do. Now, the problem here, too, is that the enemy variety is pretty small. There's only 3 enemies, the light ones, the big heavy ones, and the elite ones. So there's not a lot of variety there either. And in the weapons also don't have a lot of variety. You have Knuckles, you have the Q-Crave, I think it's pronounced, it's basically a machete, or you have a cane with a knife. You can upgrade them, but they all kind of feel the same. They all kind of feel like you're just hitting someone with a stick, and that's basically it. What is really cool is that the stealth here was the first time in Syndicate where you could crouch. You couldn't do that before in Assassin's Creed games, but you can do it here.
Oh, really? Wow. I guess, yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah.
So in previous Assassin's Creed games, if you got into bushes or something, the protagonist would just crouch automatically. It would just hunch down. But here you can do it manually. So objects in the game actually have a function now. So if you see a crate, you can crouch and you can get behind it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Back then that was pretty new. But the most important thing about Assassin's Creed game, of course, is the parkour. Right? Have either of you played Unity?
Yeah.
Right, yeah, you've played Unity.
No, I've never played it.
No? I think Unity has my favorite parkour of any game ever.
Yeah, it was good.
Because it has actual weight to it. You can feel your character grabbing onto stuff. You can feel it when he falls on the ground or when he does a roll. You can feel it. The weight of that game is perfect. In Syndicate, it's a lot more floaty, so it's a lot more arcadey and a little bit too easy, but it's still fun. And the reason that it's fun is because you also get a grappling hook here, and that kind of changes the entire game. Because in all the Assassin's Creed games before, or even the newer ones, you can just climb up everything, do weird stuff, and then, like Colin, I think I saw a video of you once where you talked about playing Assassin's Creed 2 where your character just jumped.
Yeah, it was just like he would be like, yeah, jump over to this roof, and then he would just launch himself in the opposite direction and kill himself. And he'd be like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
That's always a huge problem with Assassin's Creed games. So the zipline here kind of ameliorates that. So when you use the zipline or the grappling hook, you just shoot up a roof, you get up there, and then you can just make a zipline and go that way. So to have that option in the whole city of London is super cool. The only problem with it is that it kind of takes care of the parkour element, so you don't really use the parkour element anymore, which is a shame. But all in all, I think out of all the Assassin's Creed games, this one got the most hate along with Unity at launch. And I don't really get why it got so much hate, because it does everything the previous games did, slightly better, in some cases slightly worse than Unity, but it was still a great game. It's not my favorite Assassin's Creed game. It's not in my top 5 of Assassin's Creed games even, but I think I had fun with it. It was a pretty fun game, pretty great game. So would I recommend it to people? If you haven't played it, yeah, sure. But maybe Shadows will be the better option in 2 weeks, of course. I don't know. Yeah. But I had a good time with it. I had a fun time.
Yeah, Locke, I liked the setting of the game a lot. I thought it was really cool. I really enjoyed London. I thought it was really well done. This was at the point where the formula was like very stale for me. And I was like, yeah, but it's like, hey man, the setting, the history of it is all really cool. I always think that stuff's really rad in Assassin's Creed. I remember, what was it, like your base was the train?
Yes.
That's this game, right? Yeah, that was cool. I remember that. That was sick. And the Fry twins, I thought it was cool being able to switch off those two a lot. So yeah, I think I remember it. I remember it being a solid game.
Yeah, it's like a 7 or an 8.
Yeah, I think it's
pretty
like,
good
if
game,
you like Assassin's Creed games, you'll have fun playing it.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't really get, because I remember when it came out, people really hated it. Like not only like the audience, but also like outlets really weren't a fan of it. But I think that was just like you said, because it got stale and people just got sick of it. But I think because they recently, because I played it on PS5 and they recently released like a 60 FPS patch even on PS5. So it's a good time to go back to it now. Yeah.
Okay, I did not know that. Yeah, let's see. I'm just looking at Metacritic, and it has a 76 for PlayStation 4.
Oh, it's pretty decent. That's good. Yeah,
69 from, or 6.9 from users. So
okay, that's still pretty fair. Yeah, that's good.
It's pretty fair, I think. Let's see here. Derek wears Vaseline-filled socks. Is this like a Snark reference?
Probably. They have this fucking craziest names over there because they make them read them or something.
There's always some fucking weirdo writing.
And then we get the splash damage.
Yeah, we do get the splash damage. You're right. That's a great way to describe it. Hey, Locke, would you agree with me that Assassin's Creed Syndicate was unfairly written off by gamers after the rough launch of Unity before it? Regardless of how much you like Unity, I found it boring, to be honest. It was clowned on to the high heavens, i.e. Arno's disembodied teeth and eyeballs. Syndicate deserved much more success than it achieved, and I absolutely think it was Unity's fault. A quick search shows Unity with a Metacritic score of 70 on PS4 with 10 million in sales, and Syndicate with scores of 76 and 5.5 million in sales. Can you think of any entries in a franchise that didn't get a fair shake because of a reputation damaged by previous games? Thanks and take care. So he's pretty much agreed with you 100%.
Yeah, well, personally speaking, I love Unity. Not when it launched. When it launched, it was a complete broken mess. Yeah, it was bad when it launched. But right now, especially on PC, because it has like a lot of shaders, or you can download like another what's that called, like ENB shaders on it to make it look like a little bit darker. That game, the weight behind that game, I just can't get over how good it feels. That's such a great way to the parkour there. But yeah, he's absolutely right. Syndicate Unity gave Syndicate a bad rep, and that's when they had to revitalize the series, which ultimately is a good thing. But I wish they would go back to it now. Maybe after Shadows, if that sells well or not, well, we'll see, I guess, in 2 weeks. But I would like them to go back, because they tried to do that with Mirage 2 years ago, 2 years ago. Didn't really work out, because Mirage was basically just Valhalla, but smaller and condensed. Yeah. But it wasn't what Assassin's Creed used to be. So yeah, I would love them to go back to what it once was, even if it's just for one entry. But he asked what other franchises got sullied by,
or anything you can think of.
Of course. Well, right now I think we're in this thing where the new Mass Effect that's coming out, God knows when, got sullied by Andromeda. Or God help them if they ever make a new Dragon Age. That's going to be impossible, I think, at this point.
Yeah. You reboot it, maybe.
Yeah.
In 10 years, 15 years or something.
Yeah. You almost have to get rid of the title, I guess, because that's completely sullied by now. Otherwise,
Mass Effect's a great example.
Yeah.
Because I could give a shit about that new Mass Effect game.
What do you think of... go ahead, sorry.
No, please.
What do you think of Exodus? Have you seen that trailer?
Oh yeah, that looks awesome. Yeah, I think that looks fantastic. I want to get the book. There's supposed to be a book already out in the world or whatever, the universe of Exodus. It's supposed to be really long. Yeah, but I'd like to pick that up at some point. I think that looks great. I mean, I just think things need to go away after a while, and it's just like they should have just left Mass Effect alone after 3. It's such a shame that they ruined it to the point where we're going to get some sort of bastardized version of it. Who cares? Even at this point, it's not the same people. I keep saying it's like when bands tour and it's like but it's not the Beach Boys. Why are you calling it the Beach Boys? It's not the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
Or like touring. It's just strange. It's just, I just wish things were a little more temporary, and that people knew that it was good for everyone, good for the market, good for the creator, good for the player to move on to new things. Ultimately, explore something. Trilogies are great. I think trilogies are great. I love that approach. But Jesus, move on, please.
That's basically what Todd Howard also said in the interview he did with Maddie, which I thought was great stuff. What he said there, because he said Maddie asked him, "Why don't you release a new Fallout or give Fallout to someone else or release a remaster?" And he said, "No, we want you to miss it. We want you to not have a Fallout game for a decade, and then we'll give you a new one, so that people look forward to it again."
I just hope so. I was thinking about this where he says, "Do you think any game doesn't get a fair shake because of the reputation damaged by the previous games?" And I'm like, well, I think of Bethesda now, but it's weird because the time gap between games is so long now. People kind of almost forget or get over the bad things. Like when Elder Scrolls 6 is coming out, like close to coming out.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are just going to be excited it's here and not think about necessarily Starfield as much or stuff like that.
Sure.
Like the bad things about Starfield. And then same thing with CD Projekt, like when The Witcher 4 comes out, if that's their next game.
Sure.
How many of them are going to thinking about Cyberpunk? Maybe some, but I don't know if it'll really matter in the end, because it's going to be like 8 years or some shit in between the games. So I don't know.
Well, Bethesda's big problem is going to be Bethesda at this point, right? Because if that Oblivion remake rumor is true, which I think it is, and we get that remake somewhere this year, and it's in Unreal 5 and it looks great and it plays great, then they have to compete against themselves at this point now, because Oblivion is a great game. So it'll be interesting to see. Yeah,
their approach with is the other option, I guess, of keeping things perpetually alive, but really like every 15 years at this point, you might get a game. Because even if a Fallout game came out right now, it would have been 10 years if you don't count Fallout 76, which is kind of a bastard game. Like I know people love it, but it's a bastardized Fallout game. It's not what I would consider a Fallout game.
Sure.
So if you do that, I think you can keep things going forever. But these people that just revisit and revisit and revisit, I think are doing a disservice to the creativity of doing new things and exposing people to new things. And but that's the Mass Effect's a great example. And Bethesda's a great example too, because I think people were really down on Starfield and Fallout 76. Although I think that also people are very fickle. Those games still both did really well. Gamers are just very fickle people. I am too. In my spending habits, it's like everyone bitches and whines about EA on a constant basis. And they have like 3 or 4 of the top 5 or 6 best-selling games. Everyone bitches and whines about Call of Duty and it dominates. People will bitch and whine about Grand Theft Auto 6's price if it goes up, but they'll pay it. Yeah. So it's hard to really gauge too much based on a whimsical fucking group of people like us.
Well, the one time where it didn't pan out that way was Dragon Age again, I guess, because that flopped immensely. But that's true. That's the only recent example where that happened, I guess. Because I think Assassin's Creed is also already selling well, because they tried, or cancel is a big word, but a lot of people were upset about that one too. But I think the pre-orders are in line with what they want, so it's not.
I think Assassin's Creed is going to do great. I'm sure that the bad press hurts these games. Like I think it vacillates. Depending on, like Dragon Age, I think was fairly seriously injured by the coverage of it. Because I think maybe there might even be a relationship if you put it on a graph of like the more obscure the game. And I think Dragon Age is like a somewhat obscure IP.
Sure. Yeah.
For normal people, the more affected it is by bad press, because that's like the people that are connected, as opposed to maybe things that are a little bit more mass market or more immune to those effects, like an Assassin's Creed, which is much more mass market, because maybe 3/4 of the audience doesn't even know there's any drama to be had, and they're just excited about it. The new Assassin's Creed game. I feel like Assassin's Creed Shadows is going to do great, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. No, I also think it will. I think they already said that the pre-orders are in line with Odyssey, which is their second highest sold property ever. So they should.
Yeah. What was Valhalla was the first one, right?
Yeah.
They need it. they really, I mean, they
yeah,
need
they,
this to,
they sure do.
It's no joke. It's like they need this to hit. And I think it will. I think that's why they realize like we should really take our time and just do this right. Everything is riding on it. It might be the most important game they've ever released.
Yeah.
From that perspective.
Yeah. Can you imagine if they came out when it was supposed to originally last year? Rough.
Are you guys going to play it? Do you have any interest in it?
Not right now. I have no interest in playing right now. Maybe down the line, I'll check it out. I would like to finish Mirage probably before I get to it, just to continue, because I have played through most of the Assassin's Creed games. I think the only one I haven't played is Rogue. Like that's a great one. Yeah. I know, that's what I've heard. It came out the same day as Unity, though.
Yeah, which is so stupid.
Yeah, that was when they released a PS3 one and a PS4 one at the same time. Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
It was.
I ruined both of them in the process.
Yeah, that was an interesting approach. I remember that. I haven't played Assassin's Creed since 3, and I was sucked into that for obvious reasons because it's like I was like, oh my god, this is perfect. In terms of its presentation and all the rest. But yeah, it's just not for me. And I'm at the point, it's very much what puts me off from starting Yakuza in some sense too, is like, I'm not one, and I'm not going to, no matter what anyone says, like, I'm not one to just be like, I'm just going to jump into the 8th game. It's like, I can't do it. Like, I just will never, I believe you when you say it doesn't matter. Like, I believe you when you say you'll enjoy it. Like, I believe you. It's just not the way I absorb things.
Just can't
and
do
so
it.
Assassin's Creed, I long ago wrote off because I'm like, there's just no way I can keep up with this. And even as the games trickled out and became fewer, it's still like, I still have to go all the way back and figure it all out. And those games are frankly quite interconnected in some ways. What's funny about Syndicate is that I actually bought Syndicate. And that was one of the ones where, because that was 4 years after AC3, I guess, something like that. And so I was still in the mode of like, oh, maybe. And to your point about the presentation and everything, I was like, I really like this. This looks really cool. It reminded me of actually it came out the same year as the Order 1886, I think. So we got two games like that in that kind of same setting. But yeah, like the coal, the grit, the smoke, the mustaches, all of those kinds of things. I was really into that. So I do own the game, ironically, but I never played it. So, and it was definitely the last one I bought.
Will you play the Black Flag remake, Colin? Because that's AC4.
Yeah, maybe that would be a good way to jump back in, but I don't think so. I just maybe
maybe. Game, or it was. That's my favorite Assassin's Creed game.
Same. Yeah, Black Flag is amazing.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh no, I was going to say it has a lot of historical value to Black Flag with pirates. No other game tackles that subject, I think. Well, except maybe the only Yakuza pirate whatever game, but I don't think they do. So it's a really cool subject matter in Black Flag too. I haven't seen any. The only game that has done it is Uncharted 4 with the pirates.
Right. Like I guess the other two games that I can think of are multiplayer games. So like Sea of Thieves and Skull and Bones, right? Or pirate games, but not what you're talking about. Like pirate, like thematic stuff. That would be. I liked the ship stuff, like the component of the ship component in AC3. I've only vaguely remembered it at this point. It's been so long, but I was like, I dug this, and I understood why they were like, yeah, let's take this and dick around with it a little bit. It's pretty cool mechanic, but they just kind of lost control of Assassin's Creed, I think, over time. And I know people really love the newer ones, and I think a lot of that has to do with them just letting them breathe a little bit. Plus, they're really huge, apparently.
They're too big. I rarely say that about games, Colin. I think Valhalla was too big.
Yeah. Too
big. Just too much. Just too much, man. I can deal with a lot of long games.
I literally couldn't finish Valhalla. That's the only one, except for Syndicate, but I finished that one now. That's the only one I never finished because it was just too long. I put like over 100 hours into it. And when I saw how much I had left, I was just like, no, I can't do it. I can't do this anymore. It's not worth it. It's just too much, too big.
It's too much, yeah. It's just too much. That's enough, guys. Let's see here. DJ Housecat wrote in, greetings, Summon Crew. Wanted to give a shout out to Locke for playing one of the most underappreciated games of the PS4 era. Wow. While AC Unity undeniably launched in abysmal state, I find it a shame that it was never given a second chance like Cyberpunk and ended up being the end of the Assassin's Creed games as we knew it. For me, Unity and Syndicate felt like the promise of the series and its identity finally coming to full maturity, only to have it unceremoniously put out to pasture and replaced with open world generic slop. Having also gone back recently to these two, I'm interested to take your take on the vision of AC versus what we have now. For me, The combat in Syndicate fulfilled the ultimate power trip of being a badass assassin, while the new games are hindered by arbitrary leveling system and spongy enemies. As for the open world, the attention to detail and character of Victorian London was the first time I felt like I was playing a game in a lived-in world, while games like Origin felt uninspired and filled with busy work. Thanks for the awesome content, gentlemen. I love that I have a show to listen to each week where I can hear fresh takes on a decade-old, mostly forgotten game. Truly awesome stuff. Hey, man, I liked Origins, all right? When Origins came out, dude, Egypt, really cool setting for Assassin's Creed. It's really sick.
Yeah, but you know what a problem, or my problem with Origins, is that it took place way too far into the future. I would have loved Origins if it was like the creation of the pyramids, but it took place in like...
they were already established and stuff like that.
Yeah, it took place during the time of Cleopatra. So that's basically our time already. So it would have been cooler to go way back, but yeah.
They didn't want to have to deal with slaves building the pyramids and all that kind of stuff.
Guess, but I mean, that's what happens. So Did you play Odyssey? Because I loved Odyssey. I loved Odyssey. I thought
Odyssey, I liked for a while. Then Odyssey really burned me out.
Too big.
I was it was another symptom of too big.
Yeah.
But Valhalla just kind of escalated it more. But it's like, I get it. I get why people like the games a lot. It, like, for me, Odyssey, I remember the battle sequences with the big battles. I was like, man, this is shit. This sucks. I need to get out of these things. It kind of reminded me of raiding the churches in Assassin's Creed about how it's like, how many times do I got to do this, man?
Just pointless.
I've done this 100 times.
Yeah.
So they really run ideas into the ground in those games. Maybe a little.
Yeah, which is a shame because most of the time the stories, the main stories of these games are very good, but you just don't get to experience them because they're filled with so much nonsense and bloat, so they can sell those what's that called? Those time wasting keys on the Ubisoft store.
Yeah. Oh yeah, all that stuff. It's very strange how much. It's so weird. I remember giving Assassin's Creed shit because they would have so much DLC in the game, like buying armor sets and horse sets. I'm like, this is fucking bullshit, man. It's like, why can't I unlock this in the game?
Yeah.
People are like, oh, cares Assassin's Creed. It reminds me of like EA games like FIFA with like the cards and shit, like people spending money on that stuff. It's like, man, it's ridiculous. Like how much they get away with. People just eat that shit up. So why are these armor sets not in the game, man? Why do I have to buy them? I gave you full price, dude.
Yeah.
Whatever, man. That's a whole different conversation where I get fucking pissed. All right, boys. It's time for Sort It Out. On this segment, we talk about something that's just bothering us in the game industry that needs sorting. Could be a company, could be a team, could be an individual at a game company, whatever, however personal you want to get. Colin, let's start with you. Is there anything that needs sorting out from you?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring more attention to this thing I was kind of talking about on Sacred last week. Just the return of Acclaim, the publisher.
Oh yeah.
Come on, man. Sort it out. I felt so much better because I was like, maybe I'm just being like a skeptic and like an asshole. Maybe there's like something here. And then when I talked to Jaffe on Sacred Plus last week, I was like, this is crazy, right? And he's like, oh yeah, it's like insane. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I wanted to make sure I wasn't going crazy myself. For people that don't know, Acclaim went out of business in 2004. Acclaim was at one time fairly large publisher based on Long Island, actually. And
Turok, baby.
Turok was a huge one. They were really heavily into licensed games for sports and other products like Bill and Ted and Back to the Future and all this shit.
Oh man, yeah.
And then I was saying on Sacred that I interacted with them in a heavy way because they published they were like the physical publisher of that was the only kind of publisher back then of the console Mortal Kombat trilogy, like when those were coming out from arcade. And those were Acclaim games, even though Midway had the publishing rights directly for, licensing the game. So when they went out of business in 2004, they, much like THQ would later, auctioned all of their shit off. And so they don't own anything. And so this person is bringing this name back, but Acclaim is meaningless without NBA Jam or the rights to Turok, which I think are with Night Dive maybe or someone else now. I don't know. And like
it's The guys that made Space Marine, I think, are making it. Space Marine 2.
Oh, right. Oh, right. Yeah, there is a new Turok game. I totally forgot about
Yeah.
that. So that's going to be like in the Embracer group, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I just don't understand the point of bringing back a publishing arm that has no juice, including literally the game Juiced, which also was the racing game, which was also theirs that they sold off. So I don't. And by the way, do you guys remember the game Vex? Chris and I were talking about this.
Yeah,
how much we hate it.
That guy, right?
Yeah, like how horrible that game looks. Like the box art and the character designs are like the worst things you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah. Like, I remember this.
So unappealing that it's actually crazy.
This is horrible. I hate his design. Yeah.
And so, VEXX for people out there that want to check it out. I just wanted to say, sort it out. Like, so it's the guy who's the CEO of this Revived Acclaim is named Alex Joseph. And he apparently, I went and kind of perused his LinkedIn when we talked about it and did a little bit of research on him. But it says here in the press release announcing Acclaim and the revival of Acclaim 2 that he was basically like a consultant for many years, seems to be well connected, and was at a games, I guess a PC games outfit called Graffiti Games for a while, and helped raise a lot of money there and stuff. So it's not that he's ignorant. He knows the games industry, and I'm not trying to kind of shit on him personally. He could be a very nice person for all I know, but this just seems like such an ill-fated idea, because Acclaim without anything tied to it other than the name Acclaim, which you have to be pretty old actually to even really know what Acclaim is. What is the point of, you have nothing basically, and you're entering this really competitive ecosystem where people are just getting laid off left and right, and games are getting canceled, and publishers are going down, and you're just going to be like, yeah, we're going to now make games and publish games. And I'm like, I don't think so. I mean, maybe, I hope it works out for you, but it just seems so strange. So, welcome back, I guess, Acclaim, but it just struck me as so weird. And I think it struck a lot of people as weird. It seemed like no one was really, or few people were really writing about it or getting into the weeds, but I was like, this is so strange.
Yeah.
You can go read there's a press release out there. The guy also gave an interview with GamesBeat, which I read, and we'll see what happens. I don't know. By the way, do you know who Jeff Jarrett is?
He's like a wrestling guy, right?
Yeah, he's apparently like heavily involved in this revival of Acclaim. I don't know, because I guess the WWF games back in the day, like those were big Acclaim games.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But again, WWF doesn't exist anymore, and they don't have the rights to WWE.
Yeah.
Take-Two does. So again, it's like all of this weird. I don't want to call it smoke and mirrors, but I don't know what it is, because it's not smoke and mirrors. I don't know. It doesn't seem like they're trying to raise money or anything. So I'm not trying to fool anyone necessarily. Anyway, so that's my answer.
Yeah. Okay. Lockmore, anything for you this week?
Well, maybe you already tackled this last week. You got to tell me if you did. But mine would be WB closing down Monolith Productions.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if you talked about it last week or not.
Because that's okay. No,
okay. Well, I grew up with Monolith Productions, older games, starting with Blood, and then No One Lives Forever, and then Fear, which we'll talk about later. And then, of course, the Mordor games, too.
Yeah.
They're a great publisher. They have their own engine, the Lightech engine, which is really cool. It works really well. They've been around since, I think, 1994, which is such a long time.
Wow.
That's 31 years, yeah. And to see them close down so unceremoniously while they never got to do anything else with that cool Nemesis system is such a shame. I mean, I get why they got closed down, because that Wonder Woman game apparently wasn't working out, but I would have loved to see them maybe revitalize Fear somehow, or do something else with an old property. Maybe No One Lives Forever, or maybe their very first game, Blood, which would have been so cool to see come back, and now they're just lost forever. Which is a shame. The people working there did great stuff, I think. I love the Mordor games too. It's a damn shame.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't really think of anything current, so I'm just going to get back on my Ubisoft rant. Yo, calm down with the microtransactions in Assassin's Creed. I know they're going to be in shadows. Lockmore, when that game comes out, I need you to boot up the Ubisoft store or whatever that's going to be in the game, in the tab of the game, and it's going to show you all these armor sets that are going to be like $20 or some shit. You're going to get some Fire Horse or something like that. They always do that bullshit. That should be in the game, but they'll make you pay for it extra.
And you'll pay for it.
No, I won't. But
no,
the royal you.
Yeah. Well, obviously, because they've been doing it for a long time. Just stop, guys. Stop with the slop, man. It's too much. And that goes for like EA and all your bullshit sports cards and FIFA. It's insane. Guys got to relax, man. You're already charging people $70. And I know games are expensive, but Jesus Christ. Slow it down. God's sakes. All right. This is from Abercrombie and Amp Bitch. All right. Sort it out, Jeez. Brad. Shrek 4 doesn't suck. You suck. Hey, Shrek 4 sucks. Big time. Horrible movie. Jeez. Dog shit. Shrek 3, not good also, but better than Shrek 4. Shrek 4 is a joke, man.
What happens in Shrek 4
That's
again?
like the time travel one, right? Where he gets
that's not a good one. Yeah.
Super garbage, guys. Stop defending that shit. Shrek 1 and 2 all day.
The new trailer also didn't look great to me, but maybe I'm alone in that.
I know. I need to bring up Shrek on Constellation one time so I can ramble about Shrek. He's a terrifying creature. All right. This is from Tyler Lindbeck. Sorted out to Colin. The orc family situation in Rings of Power is real, but brief. It was literally like 10 seconds of the show. Compared to the original trilogy, it has the same amount of cheese, maybe less so. Don't even bust out the old man, wise man, controversial foot down stance you usually take. I'm also 40. Keep up with everything else. Been listening at the $5 tier for a couple years now. Love everything at Last Stand. I plan on listening until you stop talking. Playing Resistance 1 and streaming it because of you. It plays amazing and is super fun. Thank you. Yo, Rings of Power is really bad, man. The writing is horrible in that show.
That's what I've heard.
I've seen all of it. I've seen all of it, guys. So don't even try to do that. It's really bad. This whole thing about compared to the original trilogy, it has the same amount of cheese, maybe less. Tyler, I'm looking at you right now. Look at me, man. You're fucking wrong, dude. And you know it.
Oh, the orcs have babies.
That part is like 10 seconds, but the writing of that show is so bad. It pisses me off, Colin.
That orc has a wife.
Yeah. There is that. Yeah.
All right.
Bad for
very well.
Yeah. That's like the least of that show's problem.
No, I know. I knew my dad is it's funny, man, because like Dig and I get into this sometimes. It's like our dad is like really a huge nerd. He's just not a nerd in the same way we are. So like we weren't introduced to like games and consoles and stuff through him, but like he's a big Tolkien person and has been since he was a teenager, I guess. And he loves, like, gets so excited for new things. Like he's very an optimistic enjoyer of like Star Wars.
Nice.
Like he'll watch like all the Disney Plus Star Wars stuff and
nice.
Like he loves it. Like he's into it. He's like, yeah, this is fun. I'm just hanging out. But even he, I think, was like, oh, this like Lord of the Rings thing is bad. Like this is made for my dad. Like my dad would be totally into it, but he's like, oh yeah, I don't know about this Ring of Power thing or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I heard bad things about it. But the orc baby, I don't know. I don't care. Some people were saying that. I guess that's maybe in the, what is it called? The Silmarillion. The Silmarillion. That's like too nerdy even for me. I never read that, but that's like my sister Allie and my dad would love that kind of shit. So maybe that's in there somewhere, but it's corny. I wish they would just leave.
It's all about the execution in this show.
Lord of the Rings needs to go away. Like Lord of the Rings is. I love Lord of the Rings. It was some of the first fantasy I was ever exposed to. I mean, it's fucking awesome. The Hobbit actually I love even more than the trilogy. I fucking loved The Hobbit when I first read it, but you got to go now. It's why do we have to beat this into the ground? Leave, like, let's have a little respect for it. It's like them remaking doing movies or a TV show or whatever they're doing with it. It's like, guys, we have like seminal films of this. Mm-hmm. Seminal films. It's actually kind of similar to, frankly, how I feel about HBO doing Harry Potter. It's like, I get it. You're going to extract all of this, but it's like, dude, these are like classics and you're fucking with them. And it just seems so, what is enough for these fucking capitalists? Like, seriously, dude, like, I don't want to sound like so crazy about it, but it's like, I love money, and I love capitalism and I love business and all that kind of stuff, but Jesus Christ. Just have some respect for yourself. Nonetheless, the market.
I would say with like Lord of the Rings and Rings of Power, there is a ton of material that they have not even touched that Tolkien wrote. A ton. So, like, for instance, Rings of Power is the second age and not the third, which is Lord of the Rings and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of stuff they can cover. Still, a ton of stuff, a ton of stories, ton of movies they could do. But it's just really badly executed. The writing is just god awful. Awful.
We got to get
it's really a shame because it's such a high budget show.
We got to get the 10-part Tom Bombadil biopic.
You don't need to do more Tom Bombadil, guys.
He'll do it.
You don't need to do that. Man, that show is such a waste of potential. It bums me out, man, just thinking about it. Sort it out, Rings of Power.
Yeah.
And Tyler. All right.
Oh, the orcs have a society.
The orcs.
Are you excited to see the same thing happening to James Bond now? Because it's gonna happen too there.
What do you mean?
Like it's gonna get like its own spin-offs too now.
Oh yeah, Amazon is all in on that now.
Yeah, that's fucking ridiculous. All right, whatever. Neo JD wrote in, sorted out PlayStation. You think that shitty The Last of Us controller is going to make me forget you canceled the online game? Do better. Damn.
The controller does suck. I agree.
Do you think that was going to be tied to factions coming out at some point?
Probably. There's probably something like that.
And they were just like, we can't cancel it. Just bring it out.
That's a good insight, and it could very well be the case. Yeah.
Because the show's coming back.
It could also be tied into the show. I mean, who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
But I agree. I don't like the controller at all, but I'm sure it'll do well and sell its units.
I'm sure it'll do fine.
I have plenty of controllers. I don't really like the controllers that are based on games. I like just the really nice colors that they release. And I wish that we were able to customize them more. If we could, I would have so many more. But I dig the new color combinations that they do and stuff. I don't necessarily want the branding on it.
Okay. I would take some branding ones. If they did a Bloodborne controller, Lord, I'd buy that in a minute.
Again, it depends, dude. It's like band merch, right? Yeah. Like I go to, or even gaming merch. Gaming merch is an even better example, actually, where I'm like, why is this merch so bad? Like you could do cool things. Why is it so bad? It's so loud. It's got things on the back, on the shoulder. It's like, what is going on? Like, just give people graphic tees and move on with your day. You know, it's the same thing with the controller. Like, just give us a controller with a big fat Firefly logo and just move on with your life. Yeah, it doesn't have to be like this weird. I just don't like it. In other words, these things are over designed, and that bothers me.
I think they should have just put a golf club on the touchpad.
That would be awesome.
Called it a day. All right, this is Traylon. Hey, gang. I was sorted out for you. Sorted out Bradley Ellis. Question selection. Whoa, you used my full name. Yeah. Look, Brad. I know you have done outlandish. I know you have Dome outlandish co-hosts. And you're newish to LSM. I'm not newish, but you don't have to waste questions on air with what does a Metroid taste like or how big is Donkey Kong's dong? That wasn't a question we talked about. That was just us talking about it. Leave that stuff for the snark tank. Let's reel in a bit. Doing great as host. Otherwise, cheers. You know what? No, I'm going to keep bringing up Donkey Kong's dong. Okay. Sorry, man.
Everyone has a lot of advice, don't they?
They sure do.
Just endless amounts of advice.
Yeah, they sure do.
To dispense.
Yeah. And Snark Tank isn't the only podcast on air that can get wild, okay? It's not a Chris exclusive.
What does a Metroid taste like?
I forgot what we decided on. I thought it was going to be like jelly, almost.
Jelly, yeah. That makes sense.
I don't know. What do you think it tastes like?
I haven't
Let's bring these questions up again on this show.
I haven't really considered what a Metroid tastes like or even eating a Metroid, so I really don't know. I guess if things got desperate enough on planet A37 or whatever the fuck she would be on, and Samus would be on in a different game, maybe she would eat a Metroid, but
yeah.
I don't know. She doesn't look like she eats very much. So
no. You didn't play Dread, right? I forgot if I've asked you this.
No, I haven't played a Metroid game since.
I know there's a reason. There's a couple reasons why you wouldn't play it, just from you don't play Nintendo games anyway.
Yeah, Metroid Prime 3 was the last one I played.
Metroid game. But you're going to play 4?
I think so.
Okay, yeah you got to play 4, dude. It's time to come home, Colin.
Yeah, I think I want to see more of it, but I think I will. I really love Metroid Prime.
Yeah,
those were really pretty important games for me. defining games for the GameCube, especially.
Yeah, man. I never thought those games would work until I played it. And I was like, whoa, this works really well in first person. All right, boys. Time for Keep It Up. The exact opposite of Sorted Out. Stuff we're pleased with. I'll go first just because it happened very recently. Death Stranding 2. Coming soon, June 26th? Yeah.
I'm going to get God.
I didn't watch
got
the trailer.
Early access. So
I know. I'm going to get God, dude.
Oh. I'm down. It's $80, I think. That's fine.
Yeah, it's $10 more.
Take whatever you want
for 2 days.
Hideo.
Yeah, Kojima. Yeah, you've earned it, bud. Yeah, there it is.
Take whatever you need.
We got. I haven't watched the trailer. I've seen a couple screenshots, and they look fantastic, though. Showpiece. That's a real showpiece right there with the Decima engine.
Yeah.
It's going to be real nice. Like Horizon Horizon Forbidden West already is a showpiece, so I can't wait to dive back in as Sam Strand, whatever. It's going to be hype. I forgot, Locke, have you played Death Stranding?
I have, but I've never finished it. This is a perfect excuse for me to go back, because I was just telling, I think Dustin earlier, that there's nothing coming out for me until they just released that trailer. So I'm I now I have a couple of months to replay the first one, which is perfect.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome game. I know, Colin, you love Death Stranding as well.
Yeah, that was going to be mine as well. Well, I was going to have Keep It Up for Hideo Kojima just because I was so I saw the day come out. I saw that they released a 10-minute trailer. I was like, I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah.
And then
really?
and then today I was like, I got to watch it. And so I watched about half of it. And then I was like, I'm seeing, they're showing so much. Like, I don't
10 minutes is a long trailer.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to see anymore. I started kind of scrubbing through it even at certain points because I was like, I just don't need to see anymore. You're really kind of getting into the weeds here now. But God, man, the characters, the world, Decima shining, Gorilla getting a little shout out in the trailer, which is cool. And yeah, I'm fucking amped. I'm totally amped about it. I think Death Stranding is an extraordinary game and shocking game and deep, philosophical, political, and all the things that games and art can be and don't always have to be, but often should be. And Kojima is just working on a different level. So that's what I was going to say specifically. It's not even about Death Stranding 2, but it's just about Kojima. It's just he's working on a totally different level than many other people. And there are others that are on that level, but not many. And it just shows, and it's going to be such a huge game, I think, for PS5. And I think that Death Stranding didn't sell extraordinarily well when it came out, but I think it found its way over time. And I think really positive word of mouth benefited it over time. It's one of those games that I think had a really slow burn. It's also available on multiple platforms now, including Xbox. So, can't wait. Definitely my most anticipated game. I mean, it's not even close.
Question for you.
Except for maybe Judas. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Judas.
Go on.
How long until do you think this comes out on PC, then Xbox? Do you think it'll be a year for PC?
Yeah, probably. I was. It's funny, man. When I was on my walk today, I was thinking about this exact question. I was like, what are as I've said many times, it's not a coincidence that Death Stranding came to Xbox 5 years to the day.
Right. Yeah.
So that was obviously written into the contract. And I wonder if it's the same or if it's going to be earlier. What we know is that I assume it's going to go, but I would assume it's going to be years before it goes to Xbox. PC, what was the cadence originally? Like a few years, a couple of years?
Yeah, I want to say it was like a year or two.
When the director's cut launched, that's when PC
is that when it came to PC? Yeah, that like, that was on PS5?
Yeah, because I played it on PS4.
Yeah. When did direct? I'm going to look up when this came out.
Yeah, sure. So, I'll be interested to see what the answer to those questions are, but I think that the answer is inevitably they will. And I think Kojima gets to work within the confines of those kinds of deals. It's how you extract these games to begin with. And much like the other games, it will have gotten most of its juice on PS5 and Pro.
Well, the PC version came out on March 30th, 2022.
2022. So that's 2.5 years. Yeah,
because it was like 2019. It was like November or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
It was. I remember it because I was playing it when I was moving to Virginia.
Yeah.
So, yeah, exciting.
Yeah,
just exciting stuff. It's fucking weird. It's stylish. It's provocative. It's It's a lot of things. So yeah, shout out. That's mine.
It's an event, dude. When a new Kojima game comes out, it's exciting times. All right, Lockmore, anything for you this week?
It has to be AMD for me. I think for a lot of people too. AMD just announced their RX 9000 series, which is finally the competition the world needs against NVIDIA and their overpriced bullshit with their 50 series now. So I don't really have all the stats here, but the RX 1970, I think, is priced at 500 or at 600, which is comparable, which is way better than what the NVIDIA counterweights are.
They're at 9070, you said? No, that's...
that's the series. The series is called the 90s or the 9000 series.
Yeah, okay, because I always just look down because I have an RTX 2070.
But you have the RDX. That's NVIDIA. So you have the competition basically.
Yeah.
And NVIDIA is now at the 50 series.
Oh, okay.
So
I misunderstood. I see. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So AMD is like the competition of the card you
7 generations behind or something like that.
I think you're 3 generations.
Right. That's a little better. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's fine.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah. No. So yeah, AMD. Wonderful what they're doing.
Great one. Yeah. I'm not super familiar with AMD's a lot of their stuff, but I am very happy. I wonder. I don't know how was it reviewing well, Locke? Do you know anything about that? Like,
yeah, it's not as powerful as the 50 series from NVIDIA, but it's price comparable. It's way better, of course.
Okay,
like it's
that's cool.
That's good. It's insane. Like yeah.
Some of those NVIDIA cards are real expensive. Like 2,000.
Yeah.
For 5090, it's fucking insane.
It's also not. It's not worth it. Also, when you see. When you see the improvements over the 40 series, you're way better off buying a 4090 right now than you're buying a 5090. I mean, look at our friend Justin. Well, that's not. He bought a PC and it was very, very, very expensive. The most expensive PC I've ever heard anyone buy.
Same.
What was it? How much was it?
$7,000 for a PC.
Jeez.
Well, maybe we shouldn't say. Too late now.
That's right.
You can buzz it.
Sorry, Justin.
Bleep it out.
No, we don't have to bleep it. Love you, Justin.
Yeah.
They don't know anything else about Justin. That's fine.
Yeah. But that was $7,000, which is insane for a PC. That's just a lot. That's I can't even fathom.
But he got like top of the line everything pretty much because he probably uses it for work.
Yeah. He'll be good for the next decade for sure. Yeah. But still, what an amount for a PC. That's
it's crazy. Yeah. It's a crazy amount of money. All right, the pale midget from the new Mad Max movie wrote in.
Which one?
I don't know. Hi guys. I know you usually don't get into PC hardware side of things, but I like to give a quick keep it up to AMD. NVIDIA completely fumbled the launch of their 50 series of graphics cards these past couple months, and AMD swooped in to deliver a good, well-priced graphics card that you can actually buy. I got burned trying to get a 5080 back in January, but I got a 9070 XT coming in on Thursday, and I couldn't be more excited.
Nice.
Thanks for the good shows. Hey, there you go. Right with you, Locke. Yeah, I'm very happy to see that. PC stuff, waiting for it is... Dude, getting PC stuff could be such a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get monitors for like 3 months. They're just not always gone. It's ridiculous, man.
Yeah, didn't it used to be this way?
I know.
It's only been like this in recent years. It's very annoying.
Yeah, it's very, very, very annoying. All right. I mean, getting new hardware in general can be a pain in the ass. Like, think of how hard it was to get PS5s and stuff. And the Wii when it came out. Like, Switch 2, hopefully, will be easier to get. But I don't know. Colin, are you going to buy a Switch 2 just for Micah, or are you going to get one yourself?
No, we'll buy Micah one, but I'm not going to get one for myself, though.
Okay. Gotcha. All right, this is from Ryan Lynch. Hey, Brad and Co. Just want to send a keep it up to Konami for bringing in their first 2 Suikoden games to a new generation and making them easier to play. The remasters have some very positive changes, but a lot more could have been done to make great quality of life changes like the inventory in the first game. But today, we praise Konami. The series deserves more attention, and I really do hope this will result in the release of the PS2 games too.
Yeah.
And to some inside audience, make sure you vote with your wallet and buy these games. Do your part.
Yeah, I do have to buy these to show my support. I think we will get to. Konami's doing a nice job with their back catalog. I think you'll get more of the.
They've done a really good job with Castlevania in particular as well. So,
yeah,
and Contra,
right? And I think that Suikoden deserves a lot of love, and Suikoden 3 and 4, and 5, I guess would all. So Suikoden 5 the. No, I'm getting confused with Breath of Fire. I think where one of them turns into a fucking mobile series at some point.
There's going to be a mobile Suikoden game coming out.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That's different. Suikoden 3 I remember getting because it was like pretty rare. I think it's a pretty rare game. Suikoden 4 might be pretty rare too.
I distinctly remember the box art for Suikoden 3.
It's all white, right? Is that the one I'm thinking of? Is it the white box that I'm thinking of?
I mean, they're all kind of, it has white on it, like mostly white.
Yeah.
It's like the dominant shade for sure.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I saw that in the store. I do have to buy that to just show some love. And Lunar is right around the corner.
I know. I want to play Lunar first, but
they're very different.
I don't know why.
In my opinion.
I'm just drawn to Lunar for some reason.
Yeah.
Is it Lunar or Lunar?
It's funny, man, because I think it is just Lunar, but everyone called it Lunar back in the day. I don't know why.
Okay,
because
I've heard both. And
like Dustin says Lunar, but I think it is just Lunar. It's funny because I don't know why we're all drawn to say it like that, because back in the Sega CD and PS1 days, that's what me and my friends called it, is Lunar. But those are very traditional games.
Written as Lunar for English, at least. Lunar.
Luna, yeah, but that's Lunar. The word Lunar.
I guess Lunar. Now I'm getting confused. All right, let's just say Lunar. I'm going to go with what Colin says.
The moon.
Yeah, you're right.
So, I'm really looking forward to those because I actually posted on PSN every once in a while. I post on the PSN profiles message boards when something's interesting is going on there, and I was just like, these games are. It was about the trophies and how actually we're all disappointed that the trophy list is both games combined into one trophy list, which is kind of a bummer because they could have done two, which is like whatever. It not really a huge deal, but I was expressing that how deeply nostalgic these games are for me. Like there's just something very nostalgic, especially about Lunar Silver Star Story. Eternal Blue as well, but Silver Star Story came first, and there's just something very deeply. It's so anime and so beautiful and so traditional. I'm really looking forward to it.
So was it on Sega CD first? Is that where it first was?
Yeah, it was on. Yeah, so it was released in Japan and in the West on Sega CD. I knew one person in my entire life that had a Sega CD, my friend Eric. So we were aware of these games, and I think he had Lunar Silver Star Story, but I didn't really care or know about it at that time. And then Working Designs, which is as I've noted in the past, is like they don't exist anymore, but they are a publisher that was like way ahead of the curve. It was like a few dudes that would like go to Japan and try to extract games out of there. And they did like very early primitive special editions like that we take for granted now, but that were basically unheard of back in the day. And Lunar Silver Star Story, which I think came out spring 99 on PS1 as a port by Working Designs, which published the originals as well, was like the first special edition game I ever remember getting. And it might be one of the first that ever existed. I would actually be interested to know what that is. It came in like a box. It had like I've said this on Sacred in the past. It had a cloth map that people will remember smelled like shit. Like this is a big thing. If you search for it, it was horrible. Like you'll find it like what was with the smell of the map, because it had like some ink on it or whatever. And then it had like a really beautiful hardcover book with like an instruction manual and strategy guide, like early, like kind of very old school, like Dragon Warrior games used to do that, and Zelda games where it's like, here's the walkthrough for the first quarter of the game. And I had like sticker sheets and all this kind of shit. And we take that stuff for granted now, but that wasn't really a thing then. The most you'd get back then, as you might recall, was like you get a t-shirt if you pre-ordered a game. Like when I pre-ordered Final Fantasy VII, I got a t-shirt. When I pre-ordered Zelda, I got a t-shirt. Ocarina of Time specifically. Yep. So that was the best you could hope for. But this was like a little bit more sophisticated. And it's funny. It's how I feel about X-Band, which is like playing games online on SNES and Genesis. It's like that's so ahead of your time. Like you have no business even selling something like that at this point. And I felt like they were kind of them. Like Working Designs would be like limited run games or something like that today, or maybe something more like East Asia Soft or something. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, shout out to those games.
Dude, shout out. Best pre-order bonus ever that I can recall, Colin, is for Wind Waker. You got Ocarina of Time
The
with
disc.
the Master Quest
Yes.
disc, yeah.
Yes. See, that's like right in my wheelhouse. I haven't thought about that in a long time. And then, did you get the Nintendo Power discs as well? Do you remember that Nintendo Power? Because I have a funny story about this. In 2003, they released like Zelda, Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2.
Yeah,
and then
I remember
think
that.
Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask on like a disc.
Yeah,
and you
I
had to
remember
subscribe
that,
to Nintendo Power to get it.
I don't think I had that. No.
I have 2 of them because, and this was totally unintentional, is that like I subscribed and started getting Nintendo Power in college. So like this was literally like getting sent to me because I wanted that disc. And then after a couple of months, it never came. And I was like, no offense, but it's like, I don't want to be rude, but like I really subscribed specifically to get this game. And they're like, oh, no problem. We'll send you another one. And then both of them came ultimately.
Oh, damn.
So it wasn't intentional.
That's sick.
But so I ended up having 2 copies of it. And that's apparently one of the rarest GameCube games, I think.
Oh, yeah, I believe it. If you could only get it from Nintendo Power,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely. That's sick, man. I only had Nintendo Power, I think, in the N64 era, I think is when I had it.
I had it from
But after that,
88 or 89. Like Dagan had it in high school when I was like a little kid.
Nice.
Until probably maybe 2001 or 2002. And then I stopped. So like early GameCube era. When I went to college, and then I rebooted it to get the disc, and then I stopped again. Because at that point, it felt so. Magazines were just so. I can't believe how many people stuck with magazines for so long. Because to me, it was like, dude, like it feels so. It's so old. Like it's over. It feels like you're kind of making a concession to be like, yeah, I'll still read the magazine, even though I can just go online and find all this on IGN.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
My friend Mike Hubert would still get, like a year ago, even PC Gamer. He'd still get the magazine.
I still get PC Gamer too.
Wow, look at that. There you go.
I love PC Gamer.
Yeah.
There you go.
So are you getting it? What are you getting it for? Are you getting, I guess it's kind of like what I would, it was like Nintendo Power back in the day was like, we didn't know we were being advertised to as heavily as we were. We just didn't know. Right. But when you think about PSM and EGM and all these things, like to me, it was a compilation of everything. It wasn't just the reviews and the previews and shit, but it was like the news and like catching up on the things that happened. And once that wasn't really necessary anymore, I was like, well, and then you realize like, oh, you're getting PSM and you're getting reviews that were on IGN 3 weeks ago or something like that. And once I really became aware of that, I became obsessed with it. I was like, well, it's, so I'm curious, like what is it when you get a PC Gamer? What do you flip to?
Well, I've had them since I started collecting them. And that's the only thing I collect. Well, I don't really collect them. I just have them, I guess. I just never stopped the subscription. My parents gave me a subscription in 1997 or 1998, I want to say. And the cool thing I think about PC Gamer is that you can read it in bed. Like I don't want to be on my phone when I'm in my bed. So that's when I read it. And it gets me more excited to read it on paper than when I read it on the internet. Because there's, when you read it on IGN or when you watch a YouTube video, there's always opinions with it too. But when you read just the facts on a page, it's more factual and you can imagine stuff and you can. I always get more excited when I read about something in a magazine than when I see it on a website.
Yeah, it's like less noise, I suppose.
Word count.
Yeah,
word count. That's right.
Yeah.
Jeez. Going back to Lunar real quick, Colin. So. There's Lunar 1 and 2, but then there's like also Legend. What is that? That's a Game Boy Advance game.
Yeah, there's like a Game Boy Advance game. I'm not even sure that came out here.
Okay, then there was a DS one called Dragon Song.
Yeah, that I don't know anything about. The ones I know, I connect back into. I think one of those, the GBA one, I think is not even was never released outside of Japan. I could be wrong. One of those two.
Yeah, maybe.
And
there's
then
a PSP game too.
And then and so that's what I was gonna say. I reconnected with the because they re-released Lunar, I think Silver Star Story and Eternal Blue both on PSP. And that was the last that we had seen of them. And I'm not even sure I remember who published those.
Okay.
Because Working Designs was gone by then. Maybe Xseed or something. I don't know. But anyway.
Crazy.
They're really cute games. They're nothing super complicated. I think what we loved about them was that it had, because they were Sega CD games, they had like anime cutscenes. Not many. Yeah. Like an intro and an ending, basically, and then some interstitial shit.
Dude, in the 90s, that was the coolest shit.
It was the coolest thing ever. You like waited for the next one.
Yeah.
We started getting a little bit in Tales, starting with like Tales of Destiny as well. And you'd like wait for those few things, or Wild Arms or something. Where they use half the space on the disc to like give you some cool. Yeah, man,
I gotta play through Wild Arms again.
Wild Arms.
I haven't played those games in so long.
Dude, I platinumed 1, 2, and 3 when they came.
Yeah,
to
I know,
PSN.
dude. I got inspired by that. I was like, oh shit, I should revisit Wild Arms.
It's cool.
Wild Arms 1 is I think Wild Arms 2 and 3 are totally skippable games. They're nostalgic for me, especially 2.
Sure.
But 1 is deeply nostalgic. Dagan introduced me to Wild Arms, like when he came to visit me, like in my dad or whatever. And in 97, we were waiting for Final Fantasy 7. And the only other RPG that I really had that I was familiar with was a game called Beyond the Beyond, which is a fucking horrible.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that
game.
Yeah.
And it's not horrible; it's just bad. And Wild Arms is truly special. Like that's a any JRPG fan needs to play Wild Arms. It's so good. It is so good.
There you go.
And the music is wonderful. The intro is iconic. The anime intro to that game is completely iconic. So fucking good. So yeah, shout out to Wild Arms. I wish they would. That's a Sony property. I wish that they would. MediaVision still exists, and they made all of them. They still bounce around. I forget what they're making now. They make something that like people. God, I can't remember. I should just look it up, but I'm not going to.
Hey, maybe that's the controller that they can make for you to actually buy.
Yeah, Wild Arms controller. With
Wild Arms controller. You would buy
Rudy's-
the shit out of that. Yeah.
with Rudy's face on it.
Yeah.
I was really happy to see Rudy in Astrobot.
Astrobot, yeah.
I thought that was really cool. Yeah, what are the games here that they were making? Okay. I'm misremembering this. So they made Chaos Rings, and they took over the Valkyria series. So like they did Valkyria Chronicles 3,
Did
the
they do
remastered
Elysium?
version, Revolution, and 4.
Okay, so they didn't do Elysium.
No, not Elysium. The last game they're doing the Digimon. The Digimon Story Time Stranger game is a MediaVision game. So that's the next one they're doing.
Okay.
So they're still they're out there.
They're still going.
But they started with Crime Crackers technically, which was a PS1 launch game in Japan, but Wild Arms was their first big game, and God, fantastic.
Yeah, shout out. All right, this is from Hashram Barakat. Good day, Bahamut Summoners. I would like to give a big as possible keep it up to Hazelight Studios and the legend Joseph Ferris. Split Fiction is an early big contender for Game of the Year and is a fun and joyful experience from the few hours I've played, and I always had a smile on my face the entire time. I do believe Hazelight is a valuable studio and a great source of creativity and fun games during this unfortunate time of studio shutdowns and mismanagement. Thank you for your amazing content as always, and I wish you all a wonderful week. Hey, thank you. Very nice. Great write-in. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Summon Sign. Podcast where we talk about video games.
Oh,
all right.
God.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work. Yeah. All right, Colin. Tactics Ogre Reborn. You're back.
Yeah.
You're revisiting it.
I'm revisiting. Yeah, I never beat it when it came out. I only got through the first chapter. There's 4 chapters, I think. I got distracted by other stuff. I actually wasn't really crazy about it when it came out for reasons that I'll discuss, but I'm back to it, and I'm really enjoying it. So this is a remake, I think, of Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together, which was a PSP game, a late PSP game that I really loved. And that was, I believe, a reimagining, or at least a port of the PS1 game that came out directly after Final Fantasy Tactics. And I remember this very well because I was in love with Final Fantasy Tactics. Final Fantasy Tactics, of course, was famously advertised in the instruction manual for Final Fantasy VII. So I immediately was like, oh, I didn't even know what it was. Like, I didn't understand it. I bought
just
it like sight unseen.
Those guys riding the chocobo.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like Ramza and so I bought it, and that's how I learned really about. I had seen game like Shining Force, I think was one of them, or some game like that on Genesis that like a friend of mine had that I like was kind of familiar to me in this genre, but I never played a game like a tactical, grid-based role-playing game before.
Right.
And so I loved Final Fantasy Tactics, and that's going to actually be relevant because we're going to talk about Final Fantasy V later, but so which are deeply intertwined games. So Tactics Ogre, I was like, oh, so this is a game like that. I think it was in PSM, like an early issue of PSM where it's like, oh, this is kind of like that. And I was like, all right. And then I feel like there was an N64 Tactics Ogre.
There was.
Yeah.
Tactics Ogre 64, yeah.
Right. So at this point, we were absorbing, I don't know, like, It's so funny how many fucking games I've played at this point where was it Lotus, Knights of Lotus or something like that? It was something like that.
I'm trying to remember. There was Tactics Ogre on Super Nintendo. I don't think we got it here though.
Yeah, if we did, I don't think I played it.
I'm trying to think.
Maybe Dagan did. I don't know.
I want to wait. Maybe the PS1 might be a remake of the Super Nintendo one. I'm gonna double check all this. Hold on, but keep going.
Yeah. Well, actually, let me see. Yeah, all right. So that's right. The Super Famicom one came out in 95, came to Saturn in 96. Both of those were Japanese only. PS1, it came out in 97 in Japan, 98 in, May 98. Right. So this is exactly what I remember, because that was my my 8th grade year, like the end of my 8th grade year, and that's when Final Fantasy 7 and Tactics both came out in 97, and then Tactics early 98. So right, that's exactly right. And then Ogre Battle, was Ogre Battle 64. Right. So now I'm looking.
That's Super Nintendo, yeah.
Right. So Ogre Battle, was Ogre Battle 64 was a late N64 game. In fact, I think it came out around the time Majora's Mask came out in that fall of 2000. And so that I played that, and then so it was Tactics Ogre on PS1, Tactics Ogre on N64, and then I think Let Us Cling Together, and then this. Anyway, it really helped prime me for these kinds of games. And I was disappointed because there are certain things that they've changed with this Tactics Ogre game, as far as I understand, that at least the way I'm reading it, that I'm like, why did you change it like this? And a major thing is, as I noted when the game came out in 2022, the remake was like, there's a level cap, what they call like a union, like level union. And so it makes it so you can't really break the game, which I respect. I appreciate that. That's one approach, but part of the fun, especially with Final Fantasy Tactics, but I think Tactics Ogre can fall into this as well, is what's the purpose of not being able to break the game if you want to, like other role-playing games?
Right. It's like if you played Final Fantasy 7, but you could only get to a certain level per story beat or something like that.
Right. And it just bothers me. Like Final Fantasy Tactics was fun in the late game, especially because you could really start to you could grind for JP, like keep a chocobo alive and just attack him over and over again and grind. Like it's things that are corny, but it's cool that it was there. It's what turned me off to old Fire Emblem games, and why Fire Emblem was a series that I never really got into as a Nintendo fan, because the early Fire Emblem games were very linear and drew you in a certain direction without letting you really grind and fuck around, which was a hallmark of Final Fantasy Tactics. And Tactics Ogre kind of gets into this a little bit, but the unfortunate reality of it is that the level cap situation makes it so that you don't want to be too high level, but you don't want to fight story missions wherein you'll have experience points wasted, because then it's like you did it for no reason, basically, just to progress the story. And so you have to really balance this stuff out. And I just feel like it's an unnecessary change that kind of constrains and puts a ceiling on your experience on what is otherwise a really tight and interesting, deeply. I don't know anything about Ogre, Ogre Battle or Tactics Ogre lore, like over the games. Like I just don't remember any of it. But it's fake kingdoms and fake characters and warriors and classes and dark knights and thieves and all sorts of shit. And it's cool. It's fun. And if you're into turn-based board game like role-playing games like Final Fantasy Tactics, I think that this is if you like Final Fantasy Tactics, this game is right up your alley.
Final Fantasy Tactics is Tactics Ogre,
right? Like Tactics Ogre was first.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy Tactics was the one that kind of like, there would be no Final Fantasy Tactics without Tactics Ogre. So a few of the things that the game does really well, I think presentationally, it's beautiful. It's obviously, these little chibi style characters and the isometric camera angles and all of the rest. So it's nothing to write home about, but what I really love about it, and I was remarking this to Micah, is like playing these games is so fun from a design standpoint, because I think we take game design for granted a lot of times. It's always about the graphics and the sound and the programming going at 60 frames and everything's running smoothly. But for you people to be like, oh, everything's here for a reason. And these kinds of games, just the way they're laid out and how it's all about territory and the type of terrain you're on and height and everything. It's like, this is very distinctly designed to draw you in a certain way, to be taken advantage of in certain ways. It allows, especially when you're grinding levels on the maps over and over again, you realize how differently you can play each one. And I started to do that, and it's fun. And there's a lot of, it's like the love that goes into a first person shooter, like competitive map. That stuff is very acutely designed. And I feel like this, to a much lesser degree, is the same. So I'm like 5 or 6 hours into my new adventure here, and I'm enjoying it. It's fun. I think that the menus are really obtuse. I think that the equipment system is bad. Like it's just too visual. It doesn't tell you give you enough real information. Maybe I'm just missing it, but like to equip you go into an equipment store, and this is very old school, but even games like Final Fantasy 4 and 6 fixed this later on, was like, you don't even know who can equip what, if it's stronger than what they have equipped. You have to kind of like just look at the class of weapon and then figure out like who it belongs to, and then try to figure out if it's stronger. Like, and if it's an option, I don't know how to find it. Like it's something that I like sat around and dicked around, like trying to click around and look. So there's just weird decisions made with some of that stuff, like poor quality of life optimization, let's say. But it's a very atmospheric, very serious, almost Game of Thrones-esque.
Very serious game, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. A lot of death, a lot of horrible shit, betrayal, political intrigue, palace intrigue. Yeah, it's good shit. So I want to get through it. I mean, I want to play through it. And I don't know, it is a little... The one thing it misses, it's what's distinct from it about Final Fantasy Tactics is Final Fantasy Tactics is colorful, and it's like time mages and summoners and like all these, and they wear like ornate costumes. Your blue, your black mage has like a blue robe on, and it's very iconic. Tactics Ogre is dirtier. Mm-hmm. It's grittier. It's cool in a way because it's probably the way it would really be, like drab. Everyone's in rags, or a lot of people are in rags. Like the classes are not that distinguishable from each other visually, but it makes it a little more boring to play.
I get that, yeah.
And I don't remember, I guess Ogre Battle 64, I really don't remember very well, but I feel like that was even a different style game in some sense. And I don't remember what 3D. It looked like visually, but this looks very much like an SNES game, which is good. I mean, I don't mind that at all. But yeah, it lacks that pop and that pizzazz. But there are cool weather effects and the spell casting and all of the rest. And yeah, a lot of great dialogue, taking tons of screenshots of dialogue that I'm like, wow, this is so good.
Yeah, the writing in it's really cool.
One thing I did, turn the voice acting off. Gotta go. No voice acting in a game like that. Doesn't make any sense.
I want to say I got like 25 or 30 hours in to Reborn, and I did like it. I do wish they took out the level cap thing, because there's definitely times in the game where I was like, man, I wish I could just level up a little bit here or something like that.
It becomes a problem apparently in the late game. Like,
yeah, it did become because like, I'm not playing with a guide or anything like that, and I haven't played these games in so long. I'm probably not playing optimally, and I'm like, damn, this is hard. Later on, I was like, I wish I could grind a little bit, but I do want to go back, dude, and finish it, because I really do like this game, and I love Final Fantasy Tactics like you, so we're very much in that same boat. It's a cool game. I want to support it. I would love to get more Tactics Ogres in the future.
Yeah, they released it when they were just Square Enix was just pooping out a bunch of games.
Yeah.
So I just think I don't think a lot of people played it, because I think it came out around ActRaiser and some other stuff and Crisis Core.
Yes. But I was happy we got it at least. But it is a cool ass game, and I think you should check it out, listeners, especially if you like those old school tactics games. Locke, do you have any history with any tactics games like this or anything like Final Fantasy Tactics?
I've had this one. Well, I've had this game on my list on my wish list for so long. It's one of those games I never got to, but I always wanted to. I remember Final Fantasy Tactics is the same way. Whenever the first time I heard about it, like you just described it again, like Game of Thrones, that's like something I really want to try and I really want to play. But then I look at it and it looks cool, but it looks like something that I have to take my time for.
Yeah,
which I don't have for something like this. But it looks so cool. It looks like something, it's like I said before, if I ever get really sick or break my legs and can't do anything anymore, then that is one of the first games I'll play and try. It looks really cool. How long is it? Is it like 100 hours? Or?
No, it's not that long.
Yeah, I don't. I can look it up if you want.
Yeah, see how long.
Because it's also on Steam.
Yeah, it's on Steam.
54 hours.
Oh,
it says main story 54 hours, main and sides 99 hours, completionist 173 hours.
Yeah, if you do, because there's New Game Plus, because there's like choices throughout the game. Yeah,
there's a whole thing in this version where you can like go back and make the choices without having to redo everything, which is cool. So if you did all of that, and I think there's like 100. I'm pretty sure there's like 100 stage map in the game too, like late in the game where you have to do like beat 100 different things or whatever.
Is it like that game you were a fan of a couple of years ago, like Fell Seal, I think it was called?
Oh, it's exactly like that. Yeah, Fell Seal I think is better than this game, but
okay. Cool.
I think Fell Seal is only beaten by the original Final Fantasy Tactics, because I like the Tactics, the advanced games, Advanced 1 and 2. One is on Advanced, one is on DS. Those are good games, but they were like a much more childlike and whimsical in some weird way. Fell Seal I think is exceptional, but it's funny about Fell Seal. I don't understand, but I know what people mean, but they're like, this game is so ugly. And I'm like, no, it's not. I think people think it looks like a Flash game or something, but I'm like, I think it looks pretty cool. Like this is one of those things where I do not understand what people's visual problem is with the game. And the gameplay, it's the most like Final Fantasy Tactics of any game. It's so good. It's so good.
So looking at Fell Seal, the only thing I would say is the portraits compared to the character models are like completely different art styles. Completely different. Which seems kind of weird to me, but
I think
I could play it. It'd be manageable.
I think people compare it to Flash games because of the animations, right? Like the way people... Because I played Fell Seal for a couple of hours. I really liked it, but I just it's one of those games that escaped on me. I think the way characters move into the screen, that's why people compare it to Flash games. Like because there's not really movement, but you can see like they move the PNG image across the screen. But it looked...
Yeah, I guess I was so engaged by it. Like I really loved it. The DLC was good too, but I think those guys, 8 Eyes or something they're called. I think they're working on something new now.
So would you advise people to play Fell Seal over Tactics Ogre if you have to pick one of the two?
In my opinion, yeah. I might feel differently when they're different in some sense in that Tactics Ogre is just a much grittier, more serious, more somber game with great dialogue and everything. I think the gameplay and the classes and the dynamics of Fell Seal are superior. So it really depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Nothing beats Final Fantasy Tactics, but I can't wait for the remake.
Yeah. Whatever they're doing with that game,
definitely
just get it out.
Doing something. Yeah, it'll happen.
Just get it out, Square. What are you guys doing, man? All right, cool. I'm really mad that you brought this up because now I'm thinking about playing it as well, Colin. So thanks for that.
Yeah, me
no
too.
Problem. My pleasure.
Got a million things to play already. All right.
It'll be there when you're ready.
I know.
No rush.
I know. I need to go back and finish it someday. I'd have to start over though now. It's been too long.
Definitely. Yeah. I can never not start over a game. Like no matter what, if it's been that long.
Yeah, Gene's talking to me about he's been playing Kingdom Hearts 1 for years and he's like I'm like, just start over when you play
like that's crazy. Like I would not even know what was going on. I'd have no context. I love that meme that's going around recently. It's from a movie. I don't know what it's from, where like the guy wakes up and like he's driving a truck and he's got a gun in his hand and stuff, and they're like, this is what happens when you like play a game after you load up an old save after 8 months or whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. Yeah, you're right. All right, Lockmort, Fear.
Yes. I was working on an Avowed video on my own channel when the news broke that Monolith closed down, that Warner Brothers closed down Monolith. So I figured, well, that's perfect for me because I love the old Monolith games. I'll just abandon Avowed for now and I'll just pivot to making like a retrospective on Monolith. So I figured, well, I at least have to play a couple of hours of Fear to get back into it because that game is 20 years old. It released in 2005, I think. Yeah. So exactly 20 years ago. So I bought Fear again on GOG because I have it on CD-ROM somewhere, but I don't know where my computer doesn't have a CD-ROM case anymore. So I bought it on GOG and I started it and I couldn't stop playing it because that game is still amazing even to this day. Have either of you guys ever played it, Fear?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I love Fear 1. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. The game starts out really weird. You play as Point Man, who's a member of the First Encounter Assault Recon Team. That's where I got the name Fear. You basically investigate the supernatural. So the game starts that you're being sent after this man called Paxton Fettel, who's a psychic commander who's gone rogue, and he takes control of clone soldiers. And you basically have to find out why, and then you have to stop him, of course. Very simple premise, the way it starts out. But the combat in this game is so unique and so special because you basically fight endless hordes of clone soldiers who are under psychic control in various office complexes. It kind of sounds and looks and feels like Control, basically. Yeah. But what is so cool about Fear is that it has reflex time. Which is basically bullet time, but they renamed it to reflex time, which is, of course, a Max Payne slowdown gameplay mechanic. And it works so well here because, like I said, it's like Control. So you are in these office environments with a lot of glass and tables with papers on them and desks. And as soon as you press the slow-mo button, and you throw a grenade, everything starts flying. That combined with my favorite aspect in any game, a lot of people play games for graphics or gameplay mechanics or story or whatever. I play games for enemy AI. I want to be challenged by the enemy. I want the enemy to work together to form an obstacle for me as the player. And replaying through Fear was a really weird experience because this game has the best AI I've experienced in 20 years. We're 20 years later now, and I don't think any first-person shooter has done it better than Fear did it back then. The AI in this game works together. So the squads you're up against try to flank you. They throw tables up. They hide behind corners.
That's so sick, man.
They're suppressive fire. They constantly try to flank you. They try to outsmart you at every corner. They work together, too. It's insane how well it works in this game, and it's 20 years old. You only have two weapons. You have a pistol, you can get a shotgun, an assault rifle, submachine gun, rocket launcher, a couple of more, but you can only have two at a time. So your weapon, it's pretty restrictive in that regard. But
it's like Halo.
But that makes it extra exciting when the enemy comes charging at you because you know that you're outnumbered and you have that bullet time thing, which is so cool because you can get, and when enemies are flanking you, you can press bullet time and you can shoot this one and then quickly flank behind the other one and then shoot the other one. But in the meantime, there's suppressive fire coming your way. So they're really working well together. There was this one moment I'll never forget. It's one of my favorite gaming moments of the last years in a 20-year-old game. There were these three elevators, and I knew all of these elevators would have enemies coming out of them. So the first door opened, and I pressed the reflex button, and I threw a grenade in there, and then I unpaused it and moved back, and you could hear the enemy say, "Oh no!" and they're like freaking out with that grenade and trying to get rid of it, and then it explodes, and you see these men like blood everywhere, and you see them coming out. You see them just basically exploding out of the elevator. So cool. And at that moment, the second elevator opens, and there's this bigger guy coming out of there trying to shoot me. But because of the explosion of the other ones, he gets pushed back to the elevator wall, and then the third elevator opens, and there's so much chaos, but controlled chaos, because you as the player get to control it. Like you get to play with the enemies basically while they're trying to take you out, which is so cool. Something a lot of games these days don't do anymore. These days, games just throw enemies at you, and they have these hit bars and what do you call it when you have to like punch down the health bar from enemies? What's that called again?
Like a stagger bar?
Yeah, not the stagger bar, but like you, I don't know what the name is. Like enemies have their health bars are just way too big, so you can't shoot them with one shot.
They're like spongy.
Yeah, spongy. That's the word I was.
I see.
For,
I
yeah.
see.
Which is a detriment to good gameplay to me. So in this game, one bullet, one kill. Basically, if you shoot them in the head, they're basically gone. So you can really experiment with them. You can like lure them into rooms and to try to have them shoot each other, and it's so cool. It works so well. But that's not the only thing this game does, because it also has horror elements. They have this little girl in the game called Alma. I don't know if either of you guys have seen The Ring.
Yeah, it's
from 2002.
Sure.
It's the
which was
Ringo.
a remake of Ringu, the Japanese movie from 1998. It's basically the same girl. So they basically just ripped her off and put her in this game.
Yep.
She wanders around too in these complexes you're in. And the stuff they do with her is so cool because there's this one point where you turn a corner and you see her. And you turn in the next room and she's gone, and then you look around her and then she is again, and she whispers in your ear, or something explodes in one room and you go check it out and you enter the room and it's suddenly you're in a different room, and they really try to freak you out with it. Not just in a jump scary way, because I don't typically like jump scares, but the way they do it here is really, it's so special how they treat it here, because the little girl is not just menacing but also tries to tell you stuff. Like the story revolves around her, so you basically have to figure out why she's there, or what she's doing, or what's going on with her, and why you're connected to her, and why she isn't controlling you, but she is in control of all the other soldiers there. So it becomes very intriguing to see what this is all about. It's a pretty simple plot, but that's also maybe a sign of the times, because the game is so old that back then it was highly original, but now it's not very original anymore. It's also highly cinematic. So, like I said before, you can control the explosions, you can control where enemies come from, you can control how they die. There's been so many gameplay clips I recorded, which are so cool that there's been plenty of times where I was playing it and I just had to pause it because I was so excited because it looked so much fun, which I haven't had with the game in so long, especially not a first-person shooter. I can't even think of a first-person shooter right now which does the stuff this does, which is insane because, again, it's 20 years old. It's also pretty short. I finished it in 8 hours, which is not that long. It doesn't
that's a good length for an FPS, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't overstay its welcome. I'm not entirely sure because I played it on GOG, but I think it's also on Xbox.
Yeah, I think they ported it to Xbox.
Yeah, they did the next year because that's where I played it.
Okay.
Yeah. But the really fucked up stuff happened after the game was completed. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but the game was developed, or the development was in 2004. And back then, Monolith got bought by WB in 2004. But the publishing rights for Fear were with the company called Vivendi. I think they changed names later on.
Yeah, they were like with Universal. And
yes.
It's the same people, I think, that did Crash.
Yes, exactly. So the publishing rights for Fear were still with Vivendi. And then Vivendi, while Warner Brothers already bought Monolith, Vivendi hired Timegate Studios, which is another developer, to make 2 expansions for Fear 1. And those 2 expansions were non-canon, basically, because at that point, Monolith wanted to make a sequel, but they didn't have the rights to the name Fear. They only had the rights to the characters, while Vivendi had the rights to the name Fear. So Vivendi wanted to make their own sequel called Fear 2. Meanwhile, Monolith was also developing their own sequel called Project Origin. So you basically had 2 sequels of the same game competing against each other. But then at that point, WB said, no. So they bought the group that was making the games for Vivendi called Day One. They bought that developer and made a deal with them. Like, Monolith is going to make Fear 2. You guys get to make Fear 3. So right then, at that point, Warner Brothers owned all the rights to Fear again, and they could do whatever they wanted. But at that point, those 2 expansions from Vivendi already got made. So now you have 2 different timelines over 3 different games, and nobody really knows what the correct canon timeline is anymore. So in the end, Monolith got to make Fear 2 and name it that. But then the sequel was taken away from them and given to another developer, and then the franchise basically died, which is very sad. But Fear 1 and 2 Fear 1 and 2 are amazing and great. I would recommend them to anyone who's interested in first-person shooters today. I can't believe that franchise is gone, because I haven't had this much fun with the game in years, I want to say, or with the first-person shooter anyway.
Did you play Trepang 2, the game? TREPANG 2?
No, I've never heard of it.
We talked about it on Summon Sign a while ago, but it was a game I played a couple months ago. It's like a spiritual Fear. Oh. I think you'll like it. Look it up and you'll see that's all anyone ever says about it. It's got like bullet time and like it's like a supernatural spiritual game about like, you know, soldiers that are mind controlled and coming after you, and it's good. I think you would really enjoy that game a lot. Yeah, Trepang 2, and it's got a 2, and no one knows why it has a 2 after, because it's the first one. So
that's cool. Yeah, that sounds amazing. I'll definitely check that out. It Fear reminded me so much of Control. I had the same feeling when I played through Control. Like, this is special. This is something unique. Of course, Control was in first person, and then this is in third person, which is the major difference. But wow, such a great game. Fantastic game.
One of the best shotguns ever. In Fear 1, at least.
I like all 3 of the Fear games, even the Day One Studios one, just because I love just single player shooters. So
wasn't Fear 3 co-op?
It could be. You didn't have to play co-op. There were 2 different characters in it. Like
yeah, okay.
But the first one ultimately came to PS3, but I never played it there. But when I was in college, it came to Xbox, and my roommate, multiple roommates had Xbox 360s at that point. So I messed around with it there, and I messed around with a lot of fun things there. That in that generation, that's how I got into Gears of War. Although that was at a friend's on Long Island that same fall. Actually, I think they came out a couple weeks apart on 360. Fear was already a year old by that point, though. And then Fear 2, I wrote the strategy guide for at IGN, so I was deeply familiar with that game. And then Fear 3, I reviewed at IGN, and I don't know what I gave it. IGN. I should have looked this up. I don't know what made me not want to. I gave it an 8. Yeah, that's probably a little high for what people that feel like the consensus around it. But yeah, it's funny to see this. I don't really even remember this.
Yeah.
Where did you played this on PlayStation 3 then, I presume?
Or? Yeah. I think so. I don't really remember. Sometimes you would play on 360. It depends on what the build you got, But often you would get both. So yeah, so shout out to Fear. I totally agree. And shooters with a little bit of a different panache to it. It's kind of what Resistance was too, and Resistance wasn't as much that, but it was like, this is a shooter with weird weapons, as opposed to like your conventional shooter. And Fear was like, here's a shooter with like spirit skills, and shit like that. And like, that's kind of neat, dude. You're gonna love. I'm telling you, you're gonna love Trepang.
Yeah,
you're gonna love it.
I'm gonna get it right after we're done here. That sounds amazing. Yeah, it's so sad that games like this don't really exist anymore. Well, except for Trepang 2, then apparently. But the last one I can remember is like Singularity, and that's already
I love Singularity.
Also like 8 years old or 9 years old. Yeah.
That's Raven. Yeah, that's so Raven. Yeah, Singularity was cool because that was a little bit one dimensional, but I liked it where it was like, oh, this is an old staircase. Now it's a new staircase. This door is busted. Now it's not busted. It's like, all right, I get it. But there was just no money in those games. It was a bummer. Even I hate to say it because a lot of people don't like them, but even the Activision Wolfenstein games, I think were pretty good.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah.
Before, id kind of started, or Machine Games ultimately through Bethesda via id kind of got involved with them again. I like those games too. Like there were bad ones. Turning Point, Fall of Liberty, that was a bad one. Haze was pretty bad.
Oh yeah.
So they weren't all good, but yeah, I just love shooters. Just love them.
There's one more game that does it, and you're going to be able to play it soon. Stalker 2 does it really well as well. It's open world, which maybe you're not a huge fan of that, but they do it. They do a great job there. It reminded me a lot of Fear, actually.
It depends, man. Like open world shooters open world FPS is somewhat rare. I mean, you have like Far Cry is I love Far Cry, and but that's kind of it. You have Crysis, which we now know is canceled. So we're not getting that back. So yeah, because it's not revisited so much, I don't mind open world shooters. Open world action is a little more like open world third person action is a little more like, but FPS has got a little bit of a different vibe for me.
All right, cool. Let's see here. Derek Beek wrote in. This one's for Locke, as I love the original Fear. How do you think the game holds up in 2025? I played it around 2017 for the first time and absolutely loved it. Really understanding why it's so loved for its excellent gunplay, advanced AI, and creepy atmosphere. On top of that, how do you feel the series progressed from the first game? While I loved the first, I thought each game got progressively worse. So you did say you had an amazing time revisiting it recently.
Yeah, I was truly amazed by it because I remembered liking it in 2005, but back then I really didn't have like there was nothing to compare it to. Well, now we're 20 years later and there's still nothing to compare it to, which is insane, basically. That's 20 years of so little games that did the same thing this game does. And also the enemy AI, like Derek brought up here. I don't understand why that doesn't get improved. Like I remember when they announced the PS5 and the new Xbox Series X. That was a big promise, which got me to buy those machines because they promised me that enemy AI would be more advanced, and you could have more enemies on screen, and there would be more possibilities to take care of them. But that never really happened. Which is a huge disappointment to me.
Stalker, isn't Stalker an example of that?
Stalker is an example in that. I don't know how it's going to translate to consoles, and on PC they barely got it to work now, months after release. But Stalker 2 and the A-Life AI system, that's a great example, where the AI basically functions without the player even being there. So the AI, it's the world. The world doesn't revolve around you as the player, basically. It's what every Bethesda game simulates, but what those games actually do. But yeah, I would love to see. It's a Nemesis, the same thing they did with the Nemesis system. Something new, something exciting, something to get excited for again. I would love. Oh man, I would love to see like more improvements there than in graphics or story or whatever. There's so much unexplored stuff, I think, in enemy AI that we haven't seen yet.
Your cat is so cute.
Ellie, yeah. Ellie's just going around,
She's just been just cleaning herself and itching and hanging out. God, I love cats. They're wonderful.
Yeah, she's going to ham. All right, this is from Javen Mather. Question for Locke. If we got some manner of modern fear game, what do you think it's needed mechanic? What do you think it would need mechanically and or narratively to be successful? Similarly, to all of you, why haven't we seen more frequent and creative implementations of bullet time in games? All right, so Locke, Fear's coming back. What do you think it needs mechanically and narratively?
Well, like I just said, enemy AI, if you can improve that more, have them work more in cohesion, use the environment more, flank you, suppressive fire, more and more of that, more.
Yeah.
Bullet time will always be bullet time. You can't really change it. That's just either you make it go even slower or you... I guess you can do what that other game. What was that VR game called? Superstar or whatever, or with like the red enemies and you press pause and you can still
Super
move.
Hot.
Super Hot. That's Superstar.
Right.
Super Hot. That's
Close.
the one. So maybe you can do something like that, but I think bullet time has reached it's just bullet time is bullet time. It's just cool.
Locke, I think destructibility would be really big in a new Fear game if they could do that really well.
Yeah.
Like blowing chunks out of the concrete walls and stuff like that. Just everything being so destructible.
Yeah.
Because, shootouts, like you said, in like offices and everything like that, tables being broken apart realistically, that'd be really cool. That'd get me hyped.
It's another example of a pretty old game that never got replicated. Red Faction Guerrilla. That had that stuff where you could destroy everything, but that nobody ever used it.
Yeah. Okay. Colin, Final Fantasy V. Now, you guys did do a knockback on this. It's out now. I listened to about half of it. Very interesting stuff. So if you want to hear Diggin and Colin talk about it for like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's there.
So go check that out. I won't belabor this too long because of that. But Final Fantasy V is a really special game and something that sometimes it requires you to go back a few times to see something again to kind of get it more into context. And 5 always suffered, I think, from, and Dane and I talked about this at the beginning of the conversation, I think, on Knockback, was like it suffers from being where it is in the pantheon of Final Fantasy games because it's flanked by what I think is obviously like the 2 best Final Fantasy games in 4 and 6. And we never got 5 in the West until the PS1 era, the late PS1 era. So while it came out on Super Famicom in 1992, so it's a somewhat early Super Famicom game. So there was a lot of distance between them. And obviously I won't get into, everyone knows like the numbering and what came out and what didn't. what ended up happening is that we 5 along with 3 ended up being like one of the last, and 2, but we got that all ameliorated, ended up being like the last mysteries. And what's funny about playing 5 and what's funny about bringing up Final Fantasy Tactics, as I did earlier, is that 5 and Tactics are so deeply connected. And we didn't know that at the time, because Final Fantasy V came to PS1 the next year after Final Fantasy Tactics. And so when I remember seeing things like the Time Mage and all of these different character classes, and I was like, oh, this is from Dancer and things like that. And I'm like, this Final Fantasy Tactics made this up. But it's like, no, Final Fantasy V made all of that up. And I love the interoperability of the classes and the ability system, and kind of being able to break the game in some way with some of the classes. And the game loses a little bit of its luster from a storytelling point of view, because I believe that part of the character's weight in 4 and 6 is who they are and like what they do, and the gravitas that it gives Edge to be like the ninja prince, right? And like with a mask on over his face, and you can't just make him a white mage. You could, I mean, I guess you could in your mind, but you can't in the game. And that gives you a kind of linear path with the characters where it's like they reach level 48 and they learn this, and they reach level 56 and they learn this. Very Dragon Quest. And I like that kind of thing. And 6 imbibes that later on in a lot of different ways. But 5 allows you to just have these 4 limited characters. And I was referencing Wild Arms a lot in that episode because it reminds me of Wild Arms, in that Wild Arms has only 3 characters, and that's who you play as. And this game has 4, and that's who you play as. And there is a 5th, but I won't get too deep into that. So you get to know them pretty well, but because you can kind of fuck around with who they are, it kind of does ruin the gravitas of what the story could be, in my opinion, based on how I read these games. Imagine like a party of characters coming out of the wood line into a field, and just the visual of who they are and how they act and all of the rest. It's like, yeah, what are they? And I think 4 and 6 tell you, and 5 lets you kind of be flexible. So there's advantages and disadvantages to that. And I think the advantages have to do with gameplay and like just the interplay between the character jobs and classes and how you unlock them over time. And then how you can stick with them, master these various character classes, and then bring their abilities into other character classes. So you can make like a blue mage knight, or a white mage berserker. That wouldn't really make any sense because you wouldn't be able to use her white magic, but you understand what I'm saying. And I really love, and it was fun to talk to Dagan about like, what are the perfect approaches? Do you master red magic so you can get dual casting, and then take the dual casting ability and put it on a summoner so you can summon twice in a turn? But that's going to eat through your MP like crazy. So do you have like a chemist that's there to like bolster the MP of that character so you can just do incredible amounts of damage? Do you have a berserker that just does crazy damage? Do you use the samurai Zenigage attack, which is throwing your own money, which does incredible damage but bankrupts
that's
you?
what I did.
You know, completely overpowered. And Dagan tells a funny story in that episode where he's like, I was using that attack for a long time, not realizing that it was like, that's why I had no money. So yeah, I love that part of the game. And we were talking about the what is it, 4-job fiesta or whatever, which is like the ongoing, I guess it's for charity. Or do they just and it's like where people are randomly assigned character classes and play through the entire game with them, and how much replayability that creates for the game. And that kind of replayability goes all the way back to it invokes Final Fantasy 1. And really Final Fantasy 1 is the 3 to an extent, but 1 is really the one where people loved being like, oh, let's play as 4 white mages and see how, and there are entire walkthroughs for that. So this is interesting. What I was it's worth saying, even though I go into this more deeply on Knockback, is that I was so brain broken as a kid with role-playing games. And I was talking about my experience with the original Pokemon, how I basically captured every Pokemon that I could and then would level them up equally. And so it took me like forever. And I fall into a similar... So when I first played Final Fantasy V on PS1, when I was in 10th grade, I fell into a similar trap where I was like just obsessed with making sure everyone was like equal and I had access to everything, and I was just totally broken. So this one I tried to play more And there is a great, in my opinion, I don't know how people feel about it now, but in my opinion, a great port of Final Fantasy V on Game Boy Advance as well, called Final Fantasy V Advance. There's also a great port of 6. Maybe the best place to play 6 is on Game Boy Advance, perhaps. So there's that option too. But 5, I just really wanted to just absorb it as it was and not really try to worry about much of anything. The one thing I did do is use a spoiler-free walkthrough just so I never got stuck. Because I'm like, I'm not dealing with this. I don't know this game intimately like I know 4 and 6, where it's like, that's not going to happen to me. And I'm like, I just don't want to grind my gears here. Like, where do I need to go next? Where do I need to go next? Let's keep this thing moving. But otherwise, played it with none of the QOL options that are there, like giving yourself more gold and experience and job points and stuff. I didn't do any of that stuff. And I ended up getting the platinum trophy. I really ended up enjoying it. I did some of that. I grinded some of the stuff later on because you have to master all of the classes with one of the guys to unlock the freelancer and do all this kind of shit. So I'm like, I'm not doing that naturally, but I'll wait until I'll do that after I beat the game. It's cute. I feel like it's really anime. I was saying this. Yeah. Maybe really 90s anime, because I was seeing that some people were disputing my contention that Final Fantasy VII isn't anime, because I was like, I don't really read it like that. I read 5 like really anime. It's very emotive and silly and weird. I don't think 4 and 6 and 7 are like that at all. I think they're very serious. I think they're really serious games.
They are serious. I think 7 has a lot of goofy moments though too, like anime. Like I would personally describe it as anime Final Fantasy 7. Or very anime-esque in a lot of ways.
I can accept that. I think it's subjective, and maybe I'm wrong. Sure. But
no, it's totally
one of the things I love about it, 4, 5, and 6. Do either of you? Do you know Locke 4, 5, and 6?
I haven't played 5, but I have played 4 and 6 and 7 now. Remake.
What's fun about playing 5, and I'm so glad Dagan noticed this too, is like it is an evolutionary step between those two games, and visually it really comes out. Like there are legacy sprites from 4 in 5 and sprites that will be more prominent in 6. Like there's a shopkeeper in 5 that will be in 6. The wizards from Mysidia from 4 are in 5. The towns from and all the iconography on the world map are from 4, but some of like the kingdom stuff is from 6. And it's cool how they bounce around. And I read Dagan a specific quote about how they had this idea, these different character classes, like a ninja with a dog or a gambler who fought with cards. And I'm like, oh, so like really like you were getting your mind was already on 6 and like a lot of the things that would come. So we owe so much to 5 if we love 6, I guess is what I'm saying. And we didn't know that. We didn't have context because I loved 6 as we knew it 3 immediately. I was in love with it. I was obsessed with that game when I was a kid. I still remember buying it, which is weird, like because I was so enamored with it, and the box art was shitty. It was like the purple little touches with a Mog on it. So it was awful. I mean, the box art in Japan is like awesome. It's like a mono art, like the Magitech armor. But I was just enamored with it, and I think we owe a lot to 5 for that. And I love its flexibility. And I don't think that games really ever. The Final Fantasy games didn't really go down this road again until 10 in some sense, just because 10 at least has 10 is very tailored to each character, but at least it has like the upgrade, like what is it, sphere grid or whatever the hell it's called. So like that's the first time they really let you be flexible again. And so, and 8 obviously is like the draw and junction system, but
7 has the whole materia system. You could pretty much do anything you want in that.
Right. But you have your fighter, your gun user,
but I'm saying you can make them whatever you want.
Yeah, that's true. But I still feel like there are predispositions in those games. I get what you're saying, but I wouldn't quite read them like that because I feel like each of them is like Aerith is predisposed to being a healer. You know, Tifa's predisposed to being like a monk. Yeah. So 8's flexible, but I don't like 8. I want to get back to 8 and like give it another chance. I tried to play it a few years ago and I was just like, I can't. I got like a half an hour into it. And I'm like, I just can't do it.
It's a weird game.
So yeah, shout out to 5.
Yeah.
Really highly recommend the Pixel remasters. Playing them all, I think, is essential gaming for role-playing game fans. And we're excited. We'll get to 6, I think, this summer for the show. And I fucking absolutely love 6. So arguably the greatest role-playing game of all time. And yeah, so it's, and things that I didn't remember, by the way, I guess, well, these are kind of spoilers. I won't get into it anymore because There's a character in 5 that I didn't realize was in 5. And I was like,
the
really?
start of them, perhaps?
No. Well, you're talking about Tonberries?
No.
Oh, there's a character in 6 that's in 5. Yeah, I was like, I don't remember this. Like I was kind of annoyed. I was like, I don't remember this.
Easel Games wrote in, hey, Summon Science. My question is simple. How do we feel about FF5? Is it too much of a Dragon Quest game in humor and execution? Do we still find the job system fun? Is the 5 job fiesta still one of the best QDQ events? Cheers, and have a FF5 music is a heavily underrated sandwich in between 2 juggernauts kind of day. Yeah, we kind of talked about the humor. I guess the anime-esque you were talking about, Colin.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't really read it as Dragon Quest because it's funny you read it like that. Is that a common thing that people say Final Fantasy V is like Dragon Quest? I've never really read the criticism on Final Fantasy
Maybe because of like the job system and stuff like that.
Yeah, but the job systems really begin in Final Fantasy. Even like I don't.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Final Fantasy 1's job system predates any job functionality in Dragon Quest.
Like sprites,
animations. It's Dragon Quest to me. I love Dragon Quest. I mean, to me, it always read as that's truly anime, but it's like adventure anime, and it's cute, and it's light, and you have the puff and all that kind of thing, but you don't necessarily have like at least not the way I read it, like outright humor. But maybe I'm wrong. I mean, also the stories of Dragon Quest are like the irrelevant parts of those games to me, because I like just the function of playing them and being in that world with the familiar trappings of all of it, the items, the enemies, the music. The music in Final Fantasy V is very good. There's a dungeon early in the game where you go into a cave where I'm like, this is Mist Cave from Final Fantasy IV vibes, like so heavy. And again, it's just these evolutionary steps between the games. They were made so quickly, So highly recommend 5. It stands up very well, and the job system is fun. It's deeply fun. The game would be nothing without the job system. It would be a totally subpar game without it. So I'm glad that they explored that. And there's cool classes like the Ranger class. I really like the Ranger class. The bow and arrow, but being a back row character, so you take less damage. Yeah.
I always like getting the dual wield from Ninja and carrying that over to another job. Super nice every time.
How would you rank them? 6 is your number 1, of course, but how would you rank the other 5?
6, 4, 7, probably from there. We can go anywhere in Final Fantasy, right? I mean,
sure.
Not just the SNES and NES ones.
Yeah, you can go anywhere.
Yeah, so I would say 6, 4, 7, 16, 9, 5, something like that. And then from there, it's like a pretty big drop off. I think 12 is probably okay. After that, I think it's like 2, 3. I don't like 10, but I know a lot of people do. 2, 3, 13 are just like whatever. I don't care. And 15 I don't like. So yeah.
There's 8, which is kind of
and 8. Yeah, 8. Yeah. 8's fine, functional. Yeah. I just think it's a broken game.
It is.
Maybe made to be that way, but I just can't. I've said it a million times. I know people are like, shut up about it already, but it's just like, what kind of role-playing game begs you to play it less?
Yeah, fight less. Yeah.
It's like,
and I don't like the draw system either.
No, yeah, and like the more you fuck around, the harder it's going to get. Yeah. It's like, oh, cool. That's what I love in role-playing games. I love that kind of. I love how subversive.
Hey, triple triad though.
Yeah, obviously everyone loves triple triad. And 8, I was so excited for 8, and I didn't hate it immediately. It was just afterward, like when 9 was very refreshing for a reason. I want to say.
Yeah.
8 was the first one I ever played, so I had no idea how great the other ones were.
Yeah. 8, it just had a hard act to follow. I would say. You pretty much are following the biggest Japanese role-playing game of all time. High expectations, I would say. All right, this is from Christopher Maldonado's uncle, Lucho. He's back. Greetings, or good morning, gamists. Colin, I'm very happy to see you playing Final Fantasy V, my favorite mainline FF. Recently, on the other SS show, you've spoken about games that are quite extremely influential, like Arkham Asylum or Fear. I would argue that Final Fantasy V is one of those games. The dynamism of the job system is incredible, and the usage of different combinations of jobs to effectively solve combat puzzles, boss fights would be expanded on to everything from Octopath Traveler to Metaphor ReFantazio, and the new Like a Dragon games. Final Fantasy V made JRPG combat fun. My question is, what is your favorite job/class in any RPG, and why is it the Blue Mage? Thanks. Chris's very real Uncle Lucho.
The Blue Mage is so powerful in Final Fantasy V. It's awesome. Because I didn't mess too much with Blue Magic in Final Fantasy VI, which is attached to Strago, the old man, where you have to like kind of garner enemy skills or whatever. But I went out of my way for the trophy in this one to do it. And what I realized was like, it's very broken. Like having it maybe not broken, but there are certain skills where there's that White Wind skill where you can give like everyone gets as much health as you have. So like it's like the strongest healing spell in the game as long as you yourself have high HP. And there's one where it can give everyone in your party protect, shell, and float. So like 3 defensive spells all at the same time, which it would be 12 turns for the White Mage, or 6 if you had dual casting. So I have 2 answers for this, because at first plus I was like, well, how could Final Fantasy V be influential to us when it was a seldom played and late release in the West? But really it was incredibly influential in Japan, obviously. And you could probably draw, if those games weren't inspired by 5, they were inspired by Tactics, which was inspired by 5. And so there's no doubt it's a deeply influential game, and it feels so much more robust than 1, especially in 3, like just giving you a little bit more meat and more differentiation. And the colorful stuff that I was saying Tactics Ogre is missing, about like a little bit campy, maybe a little bit too colorful, a little bit comic booky, but fun. And yeah, so shout out to Blue Magic, dude. Oh my God, the Blue Mage, you got to go out of your way to get that Blue Magic, because you have to get attacked by the stuff that you are learning. But once you do,
you're great. Set. What's your favorite? Is that your favorite Final Fantasy job?
No, my favorite. Dagan and I talk about this. My favorite class, I think, is the Time Mage specifically from Final Fantasy Tactics. I just love the idea of time magic, like this mage that walks around the battlefield and like makes people slow or speeds them up, and like fucks with the balance in that way. And I am not a talented artist by any stretch of the imagination, but I took some graphical like art, computer graphic classes in high school on like, old Macintoshes and shit like that. And I did like a time mage thing where I like scanned in some art that I found online and tried to like reproduce, because they have like the cool like red hats with like the stars on them. And I just love the mysticism behind the idea that they're like not really, they cast meteor and stuff later, but like they're not really, they can't hurt you. They can only like make things really good or bad for you. Yeah. In the course of battle amongst friends. And if they're alone, they're totally fucked. And I love that image.
Yeah. They are cool. Dude, to me, I think the coolest Final Fantasy class is just Dragoons. They're like the most iconic Final Fantasy original class kind of thing ever.
16 kills it with the Dragoons.
Like, the Dragoons are all sick in it. And like Kane, just an awesome Dragoon. So many Dragoons are always cool characters. Estinian in 14, always good.
Can you play as a time mage in Final Fantasy 14?
No time mage class. There's stuff probably kind of, I'm sure there's like time mage spells, stuff like that, but not time mage that I'm aware of. Well, there is no time mage, but there's probably some like things that carry over, I'm sure.
That would be an interesting class for like people in that play together. If you were like, because I know white mages obviously exist, but like it's one level even deeper than that. It's like a sophisticated way to manipulate.
Yeah, they have like things like astrologian and stuff like that in there. So maybe, I don't know. Locke, are you familiar with any like Final Fantasy jobs?
I have no idea. Dude.
Okay, I was just curious. I know you played some of the old ones.
The only thing I remember from 4, I think, was the Dark Knight that you could play as Cecil. That was 4, right? The Dark Knight. I thought it was so cool, but I don't even know if that's a class.
Yeah, Dark Knight's sick. No, that's a class. Yeah, that is.
okay.
Yeah, Dark
Knight
Knight's
then.
sick,
There we
dude.
go.
That's what I played in 11. They were awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, this is from Ding Dong. What's up, SS crew? I see Colin is playing Final Fantasy V. Over the years, I've gotten more interested in RPGs, but my experience with Final Fantasy is still pretty limited. I have only played about 6 hours of Final Fantasy X and some of Final Fantasy XIII.
Jesus Christ.
That said, I picked up Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster Collection on Steam and plan on playing through 1 through 6. Do you have any advice for tackling these games? And if I wanted to go through the whole series, what's the best approach? Also, Maddie was on here talking about Final Fantasy 13 and 13-2. Are those worth jumping into at some point? Thanks, and keep up the great work. I would say play those 13 games near the end. There's better ones.
Yeah, I never played 13-2 or 3.
I've played all 3. 13-2 is better than 13.
I would play them if they'll re-release them. I think they probably will re-release them at some point. I played through all of them again. I think that there's got to be there's a revisionism that is necessary for 13, either up or down. But I feel like
mine went down.
Really, I feel like
played some of it a couple of years ago and it went down.
It's so interesting. I feel I was like primed to go up, just because I do remember the combat being really good.
The combat's
like the paradigm shift system or whatever.
Writing and the character. A lot of them are just really bad in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that. So
Vanille, Hope, just think about it.
Vanille, yeah, right. I liked the character, the black character with the fro, and then he had the chocobo in his hair.
Yes, that's cool.
I thought that was pretty cool, and that was I remember it was Snow. Yes. Was the first time I had ever heard of Troy Baker.
Really, that was your first time?
Yeah, I think so. Not that I've ever. I'm really not very aware of, to this day, of voice actors. Really, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
who anyone is. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I recognize that person. It's funny, man. Like I really do think the Final Fantasy game should be played in order, just because I think if you jump into 4 and 6, there's almost no reason to go back, and so you're kind of robbing yourself of those experiences. While I think Final Fantasy 1 can be beaten in less than 10 hours. I think 2, sure. Especially with the quality of life stuff where you can run and all of that, and even if you wanted to cheat just to get through them and
speed up.
One of the cool quality of life things actually that I have used in all of them is turning off encounters, just specifically when I need to like get to a save point or something, like where I'm like, it's just nice to be able to do this. And then once you get to 4, you've really earned it, because 4 is so good. One of the great stories, I think, in role-playing history, in my opinion. So yeah, start with 1 through 6, and then 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12 are all available on PS4.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just play them from there if you want, and they all have quality of life improvements as well.
Yeah.
So you have a way in. The only ones you're going to be missing are the MMOs. Well, 14's on PS4, and then or PS5, and then you'll be missing 13
and 11. Yeah. But so do you think if they're going to start their Final Fantasy journey, they should start with 1?
In my opinion, I don't see I think even if you don't go 1, 2, 3 and so on, I still think you should start with 1, just see where it's been.
I think
it's so low investment, you know?
Yeah. The thing is, I think you should start with a really good one, a high, then kind of go back. Start with 6, maybe. I know, or 4. You're going to be at the top. We were talking about 7, 4, 6, maybe.
Like, it doesn't get any better than 6, so it's such a shame to start there.
Well, to get you to fall in love with the series, that's the thing. If you maybe play 1 through 2, you can get burnt out and be like, I don't see what the
they are very. Those are traditional. Yeah, maybe start with 4. I mean, maybe that's a good middle point. Starting with 6 is just so long, and so like none of them are as good as that. None of them are as robust. None of them are as difficult, as provocative. So it'd be such a shame to start there, in my opinion. But do what you want.
Well, then start with 7.
Yes, I mean, yeah. Oh, I was thinking the Pixel Remaster. 7's probably a good.
That's where a lot of people start.
Yeah, definitely, and that's especially a totally respectable place.
Coming around, or part 3 coming around, so you can get caught up there.
Yeah,
and 9's my second favorite, so I'd always recommend 9 as well.
9's excellent. It's been a long time since I played 9, like a really long time. So
yeah,
I would like to get back to that as well. So I remember feeling I remember getting it. I had a skylight in my room growing up. It was like a slanted ceiling, and I just remember it being like nighttime, me playing that game, like very vivid memories, and I had actually cut out Final Fantasy IX logo from like a magazine ad on my wall.
Cool.
Just like look at it.
Yeah.
It felt so refreshing and like a back or return the form, but it is true the art's a little
The chibi style?
Yeah, in hindsight, I'm not crazy about the art. But
They kind of look like dolls to me, more so. Like,
definitely.
They're definitely going for a more storybook kind of vibe in that game, I would say. I think it works pretty good, but yeah, like they can be off-putting for sure. I think the pre-rendered backgrounds are amazing in that game, though. So shout out to all that stuff.
The remake was in the NVIDIA leak, right? So that's
something with Final Fantasy 9. Yeah,
it's definitely real.
Yeah, whatever's
I
going
just think
on
it's
with it.
probably complicated.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it is. If it's been this long, something probably happened. Is my guess. Something not good.
Yeah, Square's been known to pull people off projects and switch things around, so it could be that. But it's important that they get this right. But it's so strange that it took them so long because it could be a total, like a silo of Final Fantasy games that could be coming out, like new Final Fantasy Tactics games. It's so weird that they just don't care. They didn't seem to care. The advanced games are good though. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I haven't actually played those, but I've heard they're great.
They're both really good.
Yeah. Well, shout out Final Fantasy.
But again, like in my mind, maybe it's just in my mind's eye and I'm just not remembering this right. But in my mind's eye, they look like, especially the DS one, they look like Mana games or something. Like they don't look like Final Fantasy games to me. They just don't have the visuals of Final Fantasy.
Sure.
Which is a major problem with 15.
Picturing the box art, so yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, that's a major reason why I don't like 15. I'm like, this doesn't read like Final Fantasy, and Final Fantasy games change, but this is like a totally different thing we're doing here. I don't get this, but I also just don't like playing it either.
Fair enough. Okay, let's end the show with some questions from the audience. If you guys want to send questions to this show, I post a thread every Saturday on our Patreon. Calling for your submissions. We do this for all of our shows, by the way. So if you want to write into any of those, keep an eye out there on our Patreon. This is from Tim. Hi there, Summoners. Finally got around to playing Resistance 3 and discovered a neat thing they did with trophies. The trophies you earn give you in-game points, and you can redeem that you can redeem for in-game rewards, including old school cheat unlocks like infinite ammo or even infinite health or a health regeneration system from Resistance 1. What other games can you think of that integrated trophies this directly? Colin, have you considered trying such a system in one of your future games at Lilymo? I'm immediately thinking of Resident Evil games, like the unlocks, especially like 3 really doubled down on that when it came out. Trophies unlocking points you use to spend to buy like weapons, cheats, and all that kind of stuff. I love stuff like that. It's super fun.
Yeah, it's funny because I can't think of too many specific examples, and yet I'm like, I don't think this is super uncommon. Like, it's not always locked to trophies, but just like accomplishing in-game achievements. Yeah. It's funny he references Resistance 1 because Resistance 1, it was always frustrating that they never patched it for trophies because it did have an in-game system of trophies or like whatever they called them at that time that would then allow you to unlock like, concept art and shit like that. And I like that kind of thing. Yeah, and Resident Evil games or Capcom games generally do a lot of that. I'm trying to think of a game recently where I was playing through and blazing through and unlocking a bunch of this random shit. Maybe it was Silent Hill, actually.
Oh, yeah, probably something like that.
Silent Hill 2, I think you unlock some options or something like that.
Yeah, there's like some unlock weapons and stuff.
Phantom Fury, I think, was a game I played recently that did that too, with like cheats and unlockables and stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty cool that they do that. And no, I don't. The problem with doing that in the Lilymo game is it's like we don't have anything to really show you. I think it's cool to do that if there are like a ton of different options and a lot of behind the scenes things and videos and images and concepts. I think that's neat. Then you tie it all together, or cheats, things like that. But we don't really make games like that. So
yeah. Locke, can you think of any examples of stuff like that?
No, the only thing, but that's not the same, I think. The only thing I can remember or think of is Nier Automata or Automata where you could buy like achievements or you had to buy it.
Yeah, you could buy
very
trophies.
Controversial.
Yeah. Yeah, that was funny. I thought that was so funny you could do that stuff because I knew it probably pissed a lot of people off. Yeah. Yoko Taro doing his thing. All right, it's from Elia. What's the longest amount of time it has taken you to beat a game? I don't mean hour count, but time from starting a game to finishing it. For example, as a kid, I played Doom 2, but I did not actually beat it until last year. This means it took me 25 years to beat that game. Love the show and keep fucking that chicken, Brad. Hey, that's on the other boys handle that.
Yeah,
right?
Leave that to me.
Yeah.
if he's talking about like time to when I first played a game to when I
Yes.
beat it, but not on the same save, then I don't even know, because there's probably a shit ton of them. But if he's talking about like going back to a save and like completing something, Power Wash Simulator is probably one of those examples where I had a pretty big gap of time, but because usually I'm so forgetful that, and I just have so much content going in and out of my fucking mind that I just don't remember things that's why I started taking notes this year. Like I have a little compendium of games that I've beaten with just a couple paragraphs on each. So it's like, here's something to remember about this game you'll never think about again. And so I have this propensity to restart saves. Even if I walk away from things for a month, I'll be like, I got to start again. So that precludes me from having any literal saves that are like years old, apart from things like Power Wash Simulator, where I was like, that was specifically to get the platinum trophy, which was annoying as fuck. But games where I like played them back in the day or something but never got through them, and then beat them later, there's a million of those.
Yeah. What about you, Locke? Can you think of anything?
I don't know if this counts, but I have to say Left 4 Dead 2. Because when I started playing Left 4 Dead, I played through the first 2 maps, and then I figured this is cool. I played through the first 2 campaign maps, but then I figured this is cool. I'm just going to play multiplayer. And then I played multiplayer for years. Favorite multiplayer game of all time. I have over 2K hours in it. And then I think I only finished the last 2 campaigns, I want to say 2 years ago or last year during Christmas. So I don't know if that counts.
Sure, yeah. I'd say that counts.
Yeah.
I think that's like a decade then.
Yeah, man, Left 4 Dead 2, so good. Holy moly.
Amazing
so
game.
much fun.
They never released those games on PlayStation. It was very frustrating.
It's insane, yeah.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. For me, it was, I think, the one I can think of is Chrono Trigger. I played it when I was very young, when it was probably like out around that time on Super Nintendo, and I just rented it and stuff like that. I never owned it. But then later on, like 5 years ago, I think I just like fully played through it finally. So it's definitely one of those, and maybe Chrono Cross also. I played Chrono Cross when it came out, and I remember it was very complicated for me at the time. That combat system's all over the place. Then I replayed it right like a year or two before the remaster came out. So I was a little frustrated about that. But
yeah, I want to. I wish they would re-release Chrono Trigger just as is.
Me too.
It's a little weird. There's the DS version's great.
It's on Steam. Yeah, you can play it on Steam.
Yeah, that's good, but not for us console.
Not
people.
console, no.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's just weird that they are like keeping it. Like, because I think remaking that game would be interesting but dangerous.
Yeah,
but give us the original at least.
Yeah. I think it's like just widescreen or both as well in there with the DS content. Yeah, that'd be good. I'd love that. I think it might have to be something to do with, well, I don't know, something with like Toei, because they have like all the rights to the animation and shit. The character design's probably from Akira Toriyama and all that stuff. But they did get a PC release, so I don't really know what that's about.
If it makes you feel better, the PC release was completely borked.
People hate that version. They patched it a lot, but when it came out, it was very bad.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was controversial. Everyone's like, how did you fuck this up?
People don't like the pixel remasters either. They fixed those.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They did change them a bit, yeah.
Oh.
The text specifically was horrible.
Yes. Yeah. So they do listen to some feedback occasionally.
I remember seeing screenshots where I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
With the text in this game. It's
it
like, who?
Bad.
Really bad.
Why? What does it do? What does it look like?
It's just like modern text, like high res text over these. It's really, you could find screenshots easily because it was like a big complaint. And that's still an option. I think that's even the default, but you can put into like classic mode that like chunkies out the text a little bit and makes it look better.
Yeah, it just fits in more with the rest of the game's visuals. It's not so jarring.
Yeah, it looks like some illegal like web browser version of Final Fantasy.
yeah, exactly. All right, this is from Derek. Hey, boys. Do open world games inherently have less compelling stories? Lots of these games have meaningless side content that don't tie into the main quest. Having the player dictate the flow of the game can be a detriment to the pacing of the story, making certain beats feel insignificant or less impactful. I'm about 60 hours into Rebirth and about to start chapter 13. I feel kind of bad going into the ending because I forgot what I'm even doing in the story. but it is my fault for doing tons of earlier world activities / mini games. What are some open world examples that have good, compelling stories despite possibly being broken up by open world activities and side quests? Thanks and much love, D-Rock. Well, Final Fantasy VII is just a very complex story, so I could understand being forgetful of that stuff. One example right now, Locke, is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I think does a really good job of tying in side stuff in the main story really well, where I don't feel like, oh, I forgot what I was doing kind of thing like that.
Yeah.
So it's all about writing. Whoever's writing the game, it could be done well. But what do you think, Locke? Anything else besides KCD2?
Yeah, there's a ton of examples. Red Dead Redemption 2, The Witcher 3.
Yeah, that's true.
I would even say Assassin's Creed Odyssey, maybe. I think those are four good ones, but those are 4 RPGs. I'm trying to think of other genre open world games. Maybe Borderlands, I guess, but that doesn't really count, I guess.
Sure. I remember GTA 5. I liked the story.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you like the story in GTA? Yeah.
5. You don't like GTA 5 story?
No, I
really?
love GTA 4. I love GTA 3, San Andreas, Vice City, but I hated the story in 5.
Damn.
Let's just say I didn't like the characters.
Okay.
That was my main issue.
Sure.
So therefore, I also didn't like the story. But
Sure.
which is a shame because the world and the city was amazing, but those characters were just so. I didn't like them. I didn't like them.
That's fair.
It didn't resonate with me. But yeah. I think he's right though. A lot of open world games do forget that there's a main story, especially Ubisoft games do that, except for Odyssey. We'll see in 2 weeks. Maybe Shadows does it right too. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Colin?
It's funny because I was going to say that in some way, the open worlds that have the most compelling stories are the stories you kind of absorb yourself, like Fallout 3 is a great example.
Of course. Yeah.
Where you don't really know what's going on and that the mystery is part of the fun. But I guess, there is something inherent about kind of losing track of things in open worlds. And I'm glad you brought up Locke Witcher 3 because it's a game I never beat, but I played it extensively. And one of the things that I actually think I got overwhelmed by, I know I got overwhelmed by, was the side quests. But I think part of the reason I got overwhelmed by them was because they were all somewhat distinct. And so they felt like they mattered. Yeah. And so it's like you couldn't like just get through them. I'm like, after a while, these question marks are just like, drive me fucking crazy on the map. And I got to move on to something else. And I felt like I would do one and then like 5 more would pop up. But I think part of that was like kind of a compliment to the game because it was like, nothing's really skippable or, you can't just X through some of this dialogue and all the rest. So there's something meaningful to that. But there's probably, I think if a game wants you to be open, then I think it does inherently, it is an indication that maybe literal storytelling is not the most important aspect of the experience, but rather the experiential way that you get through the game and the environment itself. And so maybe that's it is. In other words, there's a concession there just by design. Yeah.
It depends what their goal is, I guess.
Now that Micah is like a KCD converter, is that something that she convinced you to play as well, or is that just something you'll never get to Kingdom Come Deliverance?
Yeah, I'm not into it personally. It's too. I've watched her play it extensively, and it's and I know she really loves it. And it looks cool. Like I watched her play quite a bit of the first one too. On Switch. That's how I knew it was just like, oh my god, this looks like a horrible PS2 game. But she really loves it, and I've always appreciated like the attention to detail, and, like the historical accuracy, and but to me, I'm like, this is too serious. It's got Red Dead Redemption 2 kind of trappings, but they're forced on you. So like an example is in Red Dead Redemption 2, I would go and like get shaved and like get new clothes and clean myself up or whatever because I just wanted to look. It was part of my own role play. Yeah. But in this game, it's kind of like a necessity, and that's kind of cool. It actually, bringing up Grand Theft Auto reminds me a little bit of how San Andreas went a little bit overboard with some of its like simulation aspects. So I totally get why a person would want to play a game like a role-playing game in a limited, realistic place in history, and they have to like bathe and have a job. But I'm like, I don't want to do that. That's not what I'm really in for. But I get it. Yeah. Like I totally understand it, and I'm happy for their success. I mean, it's a great example of games being made in Eastern Europe for cheap that don't have, I mean, 2 million, 3 million copies is a lot of copies, but they don't have to sell that many copies to do well. And so I'm happy for them. And I'm happy for people that were enjoying it. And I think that those, Daniel Vavra, whatever his name is who was one of the designers and writers of the original Mafia, is a fairly important culture war character too. Like Warhorse, I've always been interested in they were like one of the first studios that was like, we're a little different, or we're not going to buy into like the industry orthodoxy, and it is what it is kind of situation. And I think it worked out well for them. And I think they were kind of pioneers on that trail.
Yeah. What's so cool about it? Or cool. What's funny about him is that he angers both sides equally. I don't know if you follow him on Twitter, but
I don't.
At first they tried the Grumps people first tried to cancel him, of course, because his game was woke or whatever. Even though
right.
But then the other side tried to cancel him because there weren't enough colored people in it. It's just everybody hates him equally, which is funny. Yeah.
That is funny. Man, shout out to some of those quests in CD Projekt games like Witcher. Like I'm thinking about like meaningful side quests, like the one with Letho and everything from Witcher 2. Like, man,
amazing, so
cool. Even just like the quests in Cyberpunk. What's the car? Desmond, was that what his name was? The taxi service.
Oh yeah, Desmond. I think that's right. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. I haven't thought about it. I love Cyberpunk.
How good that shit is, man.
Yeah,
so good.
Cyberpunk was excellent.
Yeah, I love.
I was shocked by how good it was.
Yeah. Did you play DLC, Colin?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
it's great.
I never get back to DLC. I'm over games by the time the DLC
comes. But it's not really DLC. It's more like an expansion. You could treat it as like a separate game.
Yeah, it's like It's like
I should. I mean, I should. I really liked Cyberpunk. So,
dude, you would love Phantom Liberty. It's so good. Damn. All right.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
Let's see here. Who are we on? Okay, here we go. This is Fan. Hi, Brad, Colin, and Locke. I wanted to ask your thoughts on the Splinter Cell remake. It's been over 3 years since it was announced. I'm very excited as playing Splinter Cell Blacklist on the Wii U was my introduction to the stealth genre.
That's interesting.
I doubt it'll have the Spies versus Mercs multiplayer mode, even though it should. Do you think it'll ever come out, as other games seemingly announced too early have been canceled or vaporware, such as Wonder Woman, Star Wars Eclipse, and The Last of Us Online? Well, Star Wars Eclipse is still kind of around, right?
Yes. I was gonna say, by the way, it's like saying 3D Tetris was like on Virtual Boy was like your introduction to Tetris.
Yeah. Yeah, what a strange spot to start.
Yeah, so Star Wars Eclipse is not canceled. I think, I mean, maybe it is, but Quantic Dream said that they were. So that happened with the recent NetEase news that like they were pulling funding, and then a lot of studios came out like that news seemed a little bit, I don't want to say spurious, but it didn't seem totally accurate that like the money problems were going to hit all of these different studios, because it seems like some of them are fine. And Quantic Dream released information saying that their games were ongoing, but we haven't heard much more of Star Wars Eclipse since it was announced. I did a bunch of stuff about it because I talked to someone who was working on it back in the day, and but that was, I feel like that was years ago.
Yeah.
At this point. But yeah, it's very much alive as far as I understand. Actually, Quantic Dream said that they had like their biggest back catalog sales year ever. Like I think Detroit passed 12 million copies or something, which is
wow.
Oh,
Detroit's awesome. So
yeah,
we'll see. Yeah. I believe in Quantic Dream, but it's a shame that Star Wars game, which I am absolutely not going to play, is going to be their next game, and we'll probably maybe even never get anything from them after that. So who knows? Also, they published that game Dustborn. So
Dustborn. Wow.
Yeah. Woof.
So they probably
so Splinter Cell remake. What's going on, guys? What do you think?
I don't know. Ubisoft's in trouble, so I think that like things are just probably getting shuffled around, and so it's unknowable. They've canceled a bunch of things though, but this game has not been explicitly canceled, so I assume they're probably still working on it. They probably feel like it's important to get Splinter Cell going again. The stealth genre is relevant. You can make it relevant. Splinter Cell was once the most relevant, so who knows? I think a lot's going to ride on what we were saying earlier with Assassin's Creed. Like, if Assassin's Creed doesn't kill, then I think the Ubisoft's in deep trouble. But if Assassin's Creed does well, then I think it gives them a little room to breathe, and we'll probably learn more about these projects.
Yeah. What do you think's going on with Splinter Cell, Locke?
Well, I wish they didn't do this, because Splinter Cell 1, I think if you remake it, you will discover that it's not really that great of a game. I liked it when it came out on Xbox. It was revolutionary back then. But if you see it now, I don't know how they're gonna. I don't know how they're gonna revitalize
they could totally
that.
like remake it. Like think of like Resident Evil 2 to Resident Evil 2 remake, just like a crazy
Sure, if you do it, yeah, okay,
modern
yeah,
twist on it, I guess.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So not really a remake then.
Maybe not like a 1-to-1 remake, like a reimagining.
Sure. Yeah, that works. Yeah, that would be cool. But yeah, like Colin said, everything hinges on shadows probably now, especially if they're Outlaws was such a disaster. Yeah.
But again, I think it's going to be fine. Better than fine. I think they're going to be, I think it's going to do great. How long that's going to let them ride is another story.
Yeah.
They're not going to have another one I don't think they have another game like this. Far Cry is far away. That's a big seller. I don't know.
They have the next Assassin's Creed plan, right? Like a Hex or Hex.
Yes, yeah. Was this Red? Is this one was this code name was Red? So there's Hex and I think a couple other in the remake. But it's the head count that they have going there is huge. So
Skull
a lot of big burn rate.
Well, yeah. I mean, I hope this Splinter Cell game comes out. I am so unfamiliar with that series because it came out on Xbox, I think, and I didn't have an original Xbox. And looking back at it, I was probably much more of a Metal Gear fanboy. I'm like, fuck Sam Fisher. It's all about Snake. I mean, still, I would still say that. I was way more in the Metal Gear camp.
What about Gabe Logan?
No. No one gives a fuck about Gabe Logan. So, I would love to play because people say they're great stealth games, and I do like stealth games a lot. So hopefully those come out. Hopefully it's good. We're still waiting on that Prince of Persia remake again. That they did remake with that like team in India, and it was so bad they redid it. So Ubisoft, who knows, man? And Beyond Good and Evil 2 with them, and oh my god, they are a mess, dude. Good lord. Jeez.
What happened to that Prince of Persia remake? I completely forgot about that.
They were going to have another team make it, and we just haven't heard about it at all.
Wow.
They're like,
is that the game where the trophies were even uploaded?
Yes.
Which means the game is like certified and ready to go. That's so funny. And they were just like, nope.
Wow.
I wonder how bad it was. Yeah.
When they showed it before, when they first announced it, it looked bad. I was like, ooh. But must have been real bad. All right. Final write in here from Mike R. Hey, Summon Crew. With Locke back on the show, I'm wondering where you and Brad are at with KCD2. Can we get a spoiler cast with you two and Micah? Also, do you think that some people may have a false impression of how hardcore the game is, and that is keeping them away? I'm 50 hours in. I've spent no more than 10 minutes in the blacksmithing and alchemy minigames, and I found the eating and sleeping mechanics to be unobtrusive and easy to manage. The game is very fun and extremely well made, and there's no reason it shouldn't appeal to anyone who likes Skyrim or The Witcher 3, both of which get a lot more attention and buzz. What do you think? All right, let's start with the first point, or the first question. I'd be totally happy to spoiler cast on it with Micah and Locke just whenever we finish it. I'm like 50 hours into the game right now. It's a very long game, and I'm playing many games at one time, so it's hard for me to just focus on that. But if we get the chance to, and Locke finishes it as well, sure. And if Micah remembers anything about the game by the time we get to it, we'd be happy to do it.
She blazed through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. That's awesome.
She was really into it.
What do you think about this, though, Locke? Do you think people have a false impression of how hardcore the game is? Yeah,
I think so. I think the game is way easier than the first game. Way easier. Especially the combat. The combat in this game is like, it's not super easy, but I don't think I've died. I think maybe I died once or twice in the combat. Mm-hmm. Well, in the first game, constantly, everywhere, constantly. So no, we're practically at the same point. I think. Well, maybe you're probably a little bit ahead of me.
Maybe
because I'm also 50 hours in. I'm trying to do everything in one playthrough. I think the second part of the game is harder than the first part. You would know better than me because you're already there.
Sure.
Is that true? Yeah.
I think at the start. At the start of the second part, but then you get totally fine.
Okay. Well, I have 2 more projects to finish this week, and after those 2 are done, I'm full in in case I need to. So I want to finish it within the next 2 weeks.
Okay. Yeah, I could probably do it in 2 weeks, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I just need to make time for it. So the thing with me in this game is at the start of the game, I think it's more overwhelming than it actually is. And you think things are maybe a little more complicated or unforgiving than it actually is. Like once you start getting your way into it, things start to click, like the save system. I was like, oh shit, this is going to be hardcore as fuck. But it's really, dude, you can get save shops so easy. You only have to craft them. You can just buy them and they're cheap. So don't even worry about that kind of stuff. Like the eating, I've just had honey in my inventory. I have like 60 honey and that's all I've been eating for like the entire playthrough. And that's it. And it gives you so much nourishment back. Yeah. And
pardon the pun.
And it was free. I just took it from like a hive or whatever, dude. So
you know what's funny? You told me this the last time and I still haven't found honey.
It was in like the very first like big town, whatever it's called again. There's this like little beehive things out there.
So there's so many mechanics. Like when I talk about this game with people, which is what makes it so cool. Every time I talk with someone about it, they discover like new things from me, or I discover new things from them. It's such a cool game, man.
Yeah, I think maybe like the more realistic and historical approach from it maybe is off-putting for some people. Maybe people want a little more fantasy elements to it or something like that, more magic. Sure, you know, there's none of that shit. But I think it's really cool what it is and what it's doing. But I could see for a more general audience, maybe that just doesn't have enough to appeal to them. Like Skyrim, like, oh, a dragon flying through the sky.
Sure, but on the flip side, the character development here is so good, which you don't have in those games.
I agree with that. But I'm just saying getting someone through the door to the game.
Yeah, sure.
Once you're in the game, you're like, oh, shit, this rules. But
yeah,
getting them to even check it out, I suppose, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I wonder. I don't know.
They're dropping hardcore mode in a couple of weeks. That's when things will get hard, I think. That's when you can play.
You have to make soap.
You do actually have to make soap.
Yeah. You can make a lot of shit.
Oh, dear.
I haven't had to use soap once in the entire game. Do you even need to use the bathhouses? Like, I usually just clean off in the trough and I'm fine.
But that only gets you so clean, right?
True.
Yeah, but it's I haven't gotten to a point where they're like, you're not clean enough.
I literally had that happen today.
Parts, there may maybe like one or two story parts where they do it, but it's like very simple when you have to do it.
You know when that happens? I just discovered this early, like a couple of hours ago when I was playing it. When you have a quest that has something to do with cleaning up shit or latrines or whatever, or when you get close to those environments, that's when people will come and think you smell and you stink and you have to.
Well, yeah, you can see the little icon at the bottom, and that like the smell letting you know you smell. So you can just wash off real quick and it goes away and you're good. I mean, it hasn't been a big deal. That's what we're saying is like there is a lot of hardcore stuff in the game, but it's not as punishing as you may think. So it's pretty forgiving. That's I'm sure hardcore will be much more different though. We'll see. All right, boys, that's it. Another episode in the books. Nice. We are done. Colin, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah, please.
Slight Final Fantasy V spoiler.
Yeah.
Just for right at the end. Were you thinking of Gilgamesh? That's in 6 also?
Oh, no. Go-Go.
Oh, Go-Go. Okay. Yeah, dude. Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
You fight. This is a spoiler.
I think I remember fighting him and being like, is that Go-Go from Final Fantasy 6?
This is a 6 spoiler or a 5 and 6 spoiler. So just shut the podcast off. I'm gonna
write a thing here for Dustin.
But there is a boss fight in Final Fantasy V against Go-Go, who is a mimic. And in 6, you randomly, one of the optional characters in 6 is a mimic named Go-Go. And there's this, I didn't know this. Dagan and I were talking about this, but apparently it's in the fandom, like wiki, I don't know, for Final Fantasy V, where there's a theory that Go-Go, so when you fight Go-Go in Final Fantasy V, he's actually sucked into like a warp. He doesn't die. He's like sucked into warp. And there's like this theory that he gets sucked into Final Fantasy VI's world.
Yeah. That could make sense.
It's kind of neat.
Sure.
And that would be like one of the only literal connections between Final Fantasy games, if that was true.
Yeah.
Because there are obviously shared elements, enemies, things of that. Not even that many enemies, really, but it's not like Dragon Quest. but that would be like a literal shared element. So
man, I want to talk to you about. I'd have to say it off air. We can't say that. Never mind. That's for a newer game. A spoiler. Cool, boys. Thank you for joining me. Before we sign out, anything you want to say or any thoughts, Lockmore?
Well, thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Thank you for being here.
Really fun to talk with you guys. I had a great time. So thank you so much. I'm so happy this show exists. Always makes me smile. Usually every Tuesday I go for a walk and I listen to it, except while I'm on. So tomorrow I don't know what I'm doing, but it's you guys are doing awesome. This is a fantastic show.
Except when we make fun of you during it. And you hear that.
It's so funny because every time when I get to the store and you make fun of me or something like that, of course I have to laugh, and then people are looking at me like, you're laughing at, weirdo." But yeah.
Colin, thank you for joining me, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thoughts or anything before we get out of here?
It was good to be here with you guys. Locke, you're so good at this. It's so good to do shows with you. I think you're really, really good at this. And we should
thank you.
Have you do as much as you can for us. And I'll pay you in the future in 3, 4, 5 years. You invoice me. We were talking before the show, not to overpromise, but we're hopefully going to get another one of your edits soon, which is cool.
Yes, definitely.
So look forward to that. And so good job with the show. Thanks for having me. And I appreciate your guys' hard work. Yeah, Brad, you're doing a great job with the show. So
thank you.
Keep it up. And it's cool. It's fun to see it in the top 40 and climbing.
Yeah, amazing.
I'm very proud of that. Thank you, everybody, for supporting us, getting us up there. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. We'll see you guys next week. Take care, everybody. Goodbye. Summon Sign is a product of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is written and hosted by me, Brad Ellis. The show is produced by Dustin Furman. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. Summon Sign, along with the rest of Last Stand's media shows, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we are grateful for your kind contribution and generosity to our independent endeavor. Thank you.